We are back at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, where the field is rolling out for the start of today's 400-lap race on this .625-mile racetrack. Here's the starting lineup. On the pole from Dawsonville, Georgia, in the number 9 Coors Ford, qualifying in 1:16.003, a new record, Bill Elliott. Outside of row number 1 will be Benny Parsons in the number 35 Folgers Coffee Chevrolet. In row number 2, on the inside, it's Dale Earnhardt from Kannapolis, North Carolina, in the Wrangler Jean Chevy. Outside, Bobby Allison in the number 22 Miller American Buick. In the third row, it's Terry Labonte in car number 11. He'll take the pace lap and then will be replaced by Brett Bodine. On the outside of the third row will be number 17, Darrell Waltrip, the Tide Chevrolet. In the fourth row, number 5, Jeff Bodine, and 26, Morgan Shepherd. In the fifth row, it's Rusty Wallace in 27 and Michael Waltrip in number 30. The sixth row, Ricky Rudd in number 15 and Kyle Petty in 21. Row number 7 has Ken Schrader in number 90 and number 18, Dale Jarrett. In row number 8, it's Richard Petty in 43 and Harry Gant in 33. The ninth row has Phil Parsons in number 55 and Sterling Marlin in 44. Row number 10, Alan Kawuki in number 7 and Larry Pearson in 16. In the 11th row, it's Neil Bonnet and Steve Christman. Then in the next row, it's Rodney Combs and Jerry Cranmer. In the 13th row, Jesse Samples Jr. in 34 and Bobby Hillen Jr. in number 8. In the 14th row, Jimmy Means in 52, Dave Marcus in 71. The next to the last row, 81, Eddie Bierschwale and number 6, Bob Baker. And then on the last row, it's Slick Johnson in number 12 and number 70, J.D. McDuffie. Let's go down to Jerry Punch for more on this Labonte-Brett Bodine story.
Well, the NASCAR rules on page 17, Rule 11-6 states that a driver must complete at least one pace lap. He must get in the car, come around one time, then they can make a driver change. Terry Labonte, 9th overall in the Winston Cup point standings, will get credit for today's race, but he is making his way down pit road. Here comes the Budweiser Chevrolet to a halt. The window net already down. Young Brett Bodine, 28-year-old driver from Chemung, New York, in only his second Winston Cup start. And there's Billy Engel pulling Labonte from the car. And Bodine will go in and get strapped in. Brett Bodine making only his second start. And Terry Labonte just climbing out of the car. We can get a quick comment with Terry as to exactly how he feels. He's getting that helmet off. And Terry, how is the shoulder?
Well, it's still a little bit sore. I think I could probably run to the first caution, but, you know, if something was to happen and, you know, there was another wreck or something, I guess I could get hurt worse.
Well, Terry Labonte here and probably Brett Bodine will drive the car at Bristol, Tennessee next week on the ESPN cameras, and hopefully Labonte will be back in the car for Martinsville 2 weeks away.
All right, thank you, Jerry. They will take a couple of more laps now before we get the green flag, so Brett Bodine is going to have ample opportunity to catch up with the field and get into his assigned position for the start of this race. Now, our in-car camera, our Hardee's race cam, is being carried in the number 90 Ken Schrader car, and we'll be with him throughout the afternoon, hopefully until race's end. Let's try to contact Ken on the radio to find out how things are going for him. Ken, this is Bob Jenkins up in the ESPN control booth. Can you read me?
Yeah, I got a good copy on you, Bob.
All right, Ken, race is set to go in about a lap and a half. What are your anticipations here for this 400-lapper?
Well, I think it'll be a plenty exciting race. We got a heck of a good field of cars, and qualifying times are awful close, so we're just going to hold on and try to stay right in the middle of it.
Ken, our in-car camera is working fine. We look forward to being with you throughout the race. Good luck to you.
Okay.
He is starting in 13th position, although he was the 7th fastest qualifier overall. He was forced to qualify in the supplemental session Saturday afternoon. Remember, he sat on the pole at Darlington.
All right, now Brett Bodine in car number 11 will not go into his assigned position, the one that was qualified, but rather he will start the race on the tail of the field because he didn't make the stop.
The cold weather really played into the hands of the Junior Johnson team. No, we are not delaying the start of this race so that Brett could catch up. The situation is the weather is extremely cold, as Bob indicated to you when we were outside just a couple minutes ago. And to help the teams get off to as good a start as possible today, NASCAR has made several concessions, and one of those is to allow the cars to warm up easily, sufficiently enough to go quick.
And just as the field comes all around turn number 4, the sunshine peeks through, helping warm things here. Bill Elliott leads him down. Benny Parsons on the outside. The green flag flies, and the first Union 400 Winston Cup race from North Wilkesboro is underway. everybody nicely through turns number 1 and 2 as Bill Elliott has the lead and Dale Earnhardt has jumped into second position, followed by Benny Parsons and Bobby Allison. Brett Bodine in that number 11 car started on the tail of the field. He's already passed 2 cars in the first lap and about to pass his third as we watch the action up front. Dale Earnhardt beginning already to put some pressure on Bill Elliott, but Elliott will also get credit for leading lap number 2.
Nothing summed up this weekend at North Wilkesboro more than one comment I heard when somebody said, hey, why aren't you putting more salt on the roads around here? Talking to one of the local officials, said, hey, we use all the salt around here to cure the hams. You guys just have to make your own way.
Well, Elliott looking a little bit squirmy. The tail end just around a little bit on that car as he came out of the 4th turn. Obviously, he's trying all he can to hold off the challenge of Dale Earnhardt here in the early going.
Most people felt that Bill Elliott would lead the first 25 or 30 laps of this event. But most people also felt that the Richard Childress-Kirk Schummerdine team, which Dale Earnhardt, of course, drives for, would come to the front reasonably soon thereafter. They felt that they would be better in the early stages of the race despite how superior Bill was in qualifying.
And the number 11 car, driven by Brett Bodine, has passed 5 cars at this point. Oh, and he makes contact with Jerry Cranmer there, give him a bump in the rear end just momentarily, and now he passes Cranmer easily. He has now passed 6 cars on his way to the front of the field. Brett Bodine substituting for the ailing Terry Labonte.
And that's another substitute driver, Slick Johnson, who is following him through the field. Slick Johnson, who turned in a great race at Darlington a week ago, is running in the 12 car.
The leaders coming down the straightaway, completing another lap, but still Bill Elliott followed by Dale Earnhardt, then Benny Parsons, Bobby Allison, Darrell Waltrip, Jeff Bodine, Rusty Wallace, Ricky Rudd, Morgan Shepherd, and Mike Waltrip. And then behind Waltrip is Ken Schrader in the number 90 Red Baron Pizza machine carrying our in-car camera.
This entire, let's call it 30 car of 32 cars, 2 provisional starters were added, but 30 of the qualifiers were within 1 second. As a matter of fact, within 0.08 of a second of one another. And that also makes for the exception of Bill Elliott, who was like 0.2 of a second faster than everybody. That's how close this field was. But right now, Dale Earnhardt is reminding Mr. Elliott, you make one mess up like that, and I might get through.
When you come to North Wilkesboro on a short racetrack, you expect some fender to fender and even some paint trading going on out there. And we've seen it already as Brett Bodine gave Jerry Cranmer a nudge in the rear end. And now we're seeing some great competition out there between Dale Earnhardt and Bill Elliott, and an occasional bump from Earnhardt to Elliott. But at the moment, Dale unable to take over that top spot.
He's just, well, not waiting. I was going to use the term waiting, but he is aggressively waiting, Bob. He's just anticipating that first maneuver by Elliott will give him enough room, because right now Earnhardt...
Oh, we have a spin over in turn number 3. That's Bobby Hillen Jr., who spins up toward the outside retaining wall and may have nudged it. He certainly didn't give it much of a hit.
Earnhardt's taking the lead.
And now Dale Earnhardt goes to the inside of Bill Elliott in turn number 3, takes the lead, and he will have the lead when the yellow comes out. And again, Elliott getting a little bit of sideways coming out of turn number 4. And there is the in-car camera as Ken Schrader raises his hand and signifies to the other drivers behind him to slow down. The yellow is out. So Bobby Hillen Jr. brings out our first caution flag of the afternoon after spinning and maybe nudging the wall up in turn number 3. The yellow flag comes out on lap number 11.
Well, Earnhardt, who apparently saw the situation up ahead. The drivers will tell you how important it is to drive as far ahead of the front bumper as you possibly can, and he perhaps saw the situation as it was unfolding, and even though that Hillen was on the track, Dale felt he had enough time to move to the front.
The yellow is out at North Wilkesboro with Dale Earnhardt leading Bill Elliott, and we'll be right back. The green flag is about to come out after a very brief yellow because of an incident up in turn number 3 involving Bobby Hillen Jr. He spun up there in the 3rd turn, nudged the wall, but no serious damage to the car and nothing on the racetrack. So it's a brief yellow. Here comes the field to receive the green flag. Now Dale Earnhardt passed Bill Elliott in the race to the checkered flag, and that's the reason that he has taken over that top spot. As we look toward the competitors behind Elliott and Earnhardt, we see that Benny Parsons is dropping back as Bobby Allison has moved to third, Darrell Waltrip to fourth, and Jeff Bodine and Benny Parsons are battling for that fifth position.
Well, Bob, they got Benny squeezed out into the high lane, and not only did Allison go by, then Waltrip, and you can see Bodine has got a shot at getting by. Benny is desperately trying to push his way back down to the inside lane, particularly in the early stages of this race, before we get rubber laid down and maybe a second lane up on the high side, up in the banking begins to develop. You really have to protect the inside flank.
That's 5th, 6th, and 7th. Benny Parsons, Jeff Bodine, and right behind Jeff is Rusty Wallace in the number 27 Kodiak car.
Jeff Bodine, who had a pretty good season in 1986, he's off of that pace just a touch. A lot of people feel that he is a threat to win every time he goes to an event, although it hasn't been quite as true in 1987 as it was in 1986. I personally thought that they were due for a pretty good race. They're well up into the top 10, and Waltrip is spinning. Darrell Waltrip has lost control. Nowhere to go. Bodine touches him. He is hit by Ricky Rudd. All types of confusion in 3 and 4, and Waltrip just lost the handle.
And Jeff Bodine, a victim of that crash, and it's a miracle that more cars are not involved because the racetrack is essentially blocked up there in between turns number 3 and 4. Benny Parsons just sneaked by without hitting anything. Now both of the
Waltrip
cars...
is losing a lap, a very important moment on a short track. Waltrip has lost a lap. Jesse Samples, who stopped for it, Bodine, he gets back under control. He's back at speed, but Darrell Waltrip, who started that, and he's pulling to a stop on the inside of turn number... No, he's not coming to a stop. He's looking for a way to get back to the pit.
He has problems because that left front tire is out of shape completely, and it's being very difficult to control that race car. So Darrell Waltrip has serious problems as he spins and comes in contact with Jeff Bodine. Actually, Bodine coming in contact with him in turn number 3. Here's a replay.
You can see that this is in the outside, or this is between 3 and 4. Darrell was trying to get underneath Bobby Allison. It did not look like there was a bump from Allison. I didn't quite catch the beginning of that close enough to know whether or not he hit the curb, but it looked like that Darrell just lost it. Now, we're going to take another look at this from the inside from the in-car camera in just a minute or so here. You can see Bodine has made contact, damaging his rear bumper. There goes Phil Parsons up along the wall. Slick Johnson trying to slither through. Larry Pearson stopping. Bobby Hillin Jr., who, by the way, did not lose a lap when he spun about 3 laps ago. Bob?
Now we'll go to the in-car camera and see how it looked from the vantage point of Ken Schrader in the number 90 car. Here he comes off of turn number 2 down the backstretch. There will be problems developing there in front of him. There is Earnhardt, or rather Waltrip spinning, and Schrader waving to the competitors behind him.
And Kenny Schrader right between the two of them. He found that small opening in the cave and ducked right through there. And the first half of it he did with one hand as he was signaling to the people behind him with the other.
And there is Darrell Waltrip's crew going to work on that Tide Chevrolet. Let's go down to Dick Bergman for this report.
Well, Jeff Bodine has just been in here very briefly. They've changed the tires on the left side of the car. They've torn off the back bumper on that automobile, and Bodine is headed back out. And just before Bodine came into the pits, so too did Darrell Waltrip, limping very, very slowly. My colleague Jerry Punch is at that end of the pit. Jerry?
On the Tide Chevrolet up on the jacks, you can see there is damage to the left front fender. They've just pulled the tire off. Waddell Wilson and the crew trying to make the repairs. You see apparently has some sheet metal damage. And the steering mechanism on the left side of the car, you see the wheel bent in. The right front tire faces straight ahead, but the left side tire is bent. Bodine is back in the pits, as he certainly is having his trouble today. One break for Brett Bodine. The Junior Johnson crew are liking these early caution flags. That gives their young driver a chance to work up through lap traffic and narrow his distance between himself and the leader, Dale Earnhardt.
Bodine is losing a lap. Is he going to get out? No, he's getting the stop sign. Jeff Bodine came within 2 or 3 seconds of saving the lap.
So both Jeff Bodine and Darrell Waltrip have lost laps because of this incident. And there is Jeff Bodine being held in the pits as Waltrip's crew continues to work on his car to the left of your screen. Now here is a normal speed replay of this incident from the Hardy's race cam and Ken Schrader.
Watch Kenny driving one-handed to the last second. Then he grabs the wheel and says, well, I got to make a decision here. I'm going to stand on the gas, I think, trying to get through that opening while it's open.
A very smart move on Ken Schrader's part. Nice driving to keep him out of that incident. So at North Wilkesboro, we have completed 23 laps. We're still under caution. It's still Dale Earnhardt, the leader at North Wilkesboro, with Bill Elliott running second, Bobby Allison third, followed by Benny Parsons, Rusty Wallace, and Morgan Shepherd. The green flag came out on lap number 24. As Earnhardt continues to set the pace here, we might mention to you that Brett Bodine, who is, of course, substituting for Terry Labonte, started 32nd and moved to 17th.
Bob, it's too early in the season to say that any event is, wow, a big moment in the year. But for Darrell Waltrip, I think that has to be a demoralizing moment. Very disappointing moment. Maybe that's a better word of putting it at, because Darrell felt he was coming home when he came to this racetrack. And he felt that, well, this is the place where I'm supposed to shine, and maybe it'll happen here. Right now, Jerry Punch is down in Darrell's pit.
Well, Darrell Waltrip's still in the car. They just completed work on the car. They're hustling to get this tire back on. They broke a left front tie rod. The tie rod on the left front of the car that controls the left front wheel snapped. That's what sent him in the spin. And then over in turn 4, he is now ready to go back on the speedway.
The engine has been restarted, and now Darrell Waltrip goes back out in competition, but he has lost several laps in this race.
To one extent, it's good news because I called it as I saw it. It looked like that Darrell had lost it, but there was definitely, apparently, mechanical problems involved. So the hard luck continues, but at least Darrell has a small glimmer of positive feeling in the back of his mind. Hey, it wasn't me, but geez, I wish it would have happened here at North Wilkesboro.
One other car that made a pit stop during that most recent caution period was Ricky Rudd. He's working his way back toward the front of the field. Michael Waltrip and Ken Schrader are battling for position on the racetrack in the fourth turn. Now we're back with the Hardee's race cam down the front straightaway. This is the Red Baron number 90. And Ken Schrader right now is in 8th position, Waltrip in 7th. It's a very demanding racetrack. You can see that there is absolutely no time in which the driver can relax, unlike a Daytona or a Talladega. Here's a pass for second. Bobby Allison going for it to the inside of Bill Elliott. They come out of turn number 4, and Allison has second spot. Elliott back to third.
Many tracks have been kind to Bobby Allison in his career, but this has been a pretty good one for him. He is number 4 on the all-time list among the active drivers, those with the most wins here at North Wilkesboro.
Allison now second and Bill Elliott third. Moving up to 4th position is Rusty Wallace as Benny Parsons falls back to 5th. Still Morgan Shepherd in 6th and Mike Waltrip in 7th. Ken Schrader in 8th. 9th is Kyle Petty. And in 10th position is Alan Kulwicki. And back further in the field, it's Neil Bonnet, Richard Petty, and Phil Parsons going at it.
Bonnet started in 21st position. Richard started in 15th position, and Phil started in 17th. So Neil is the guy who has played leapfrog there and jumped ahead of the two of them after starting behind them. But I think that Neil had a pretty good inside draw when they went through the incident set off by Waltrip.
11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th here. Behind Phil Parsons is that cream-colored car that is driven by Dave Marcus. He's 14th.
Yeah, he had a real close call in practice yesterday. Marcus, by the way, the drive shaft came loose in the car. Perhaps a little more on that a little later. There's a picture of Neil Bonnet, who has moved back to the Bob Rahilly Butch Mock machine for 1987. Richard Petty, of course, following right behind. I'm a little surprised, really, that Richard hasn't performed better in qualifying and in the early laps of the race here, because he was one of the more consistent cars in practice on Friday. I was up in the press box in a handheld stopwatch. He was consistently down in the 1970s, which was kind of the line here at North Wilkesboro. You had to get under that to be competitive.
And there is Brett Bodine still moving up through traffic. Right ahead of him is the 18th Friedlander car, driven this weekend by Dale Jarrett. That's the former ride of Tommy Ellis. We might mention that Neil Bonnet has made great strides here in the first 40 laps or so, as he has moved from 21st to 11th.
It's a good ride for Jared. Jared's had a strong week. Saw him right there running with Brett Bodine. Now we're going back into the Hardee's race game.
Schrader in 8th position.
That's Kowicki right behind him. Both of these guys have had poles this year. Neither one of them has won, but they are emblematic of part of the new troop that's beginning to invade and move in on some of what was once the hallowed ground of only the good old boys from here down in the South. Kyle Petty is immediately right behind the number 7 car of Alan Kowicki in the Xerox car.
And now Rusty Wallace begins to make a move on Bill Elliott, and Rusty is going to move into 3rd position, at least would like to, but Elliott stays right alongside him as the two go through corner number 2. Now they go down the backstretch, and Rusty opens up about a half a car length advantage. Now makes the complete pass going into turn number 3. Rusty Wallace showing some strength here. He's now 3rd.
Rusty emerged in 1986 as one of the strong runners on the short tracks in Winston Cup racing. He was one of only a couple of drivers who won twice. He won at Bristol on the high banks, and he won at Martinsville on the flat track. Both of them were short, but he was strong every time on the short tracks. He had another 4th place finish right here at North Wilkes late in the year.
Meanwhile, Dale Earnhardt, the leader of this race, has opened up almost a full straightaway lead on Bobby Allison. There is Dale going down the backstretch, just going into turn number 3 as Bobby Allison comes out of turn number 2. Earnhardt showing some very positive signs of winning this race here, at least in the early going. Now back to Ken Schrader as we see him racing with, and in fact bumping with, Alan Kowicki.
Kowicki has done a pretty good job because not much really has been heard from him all weekend long. He started in 19th position. We told you that Schrader started 13th, but it was the 7th fastest qualifier overall. Kowicki, who's had a shakeup within his team in the last couple of weeks, is performing his best of the entire weekend right now, Bob. This is the strongest we have seen Alan race, and he is pulling away from Schrader and looking forward to going after Morgan Shepherd.
And right behind Ken Schrader is Kyle Petty in that number 21 Wood Brothers car, as we now have a view from the rear window, the Hardee's race cam.
It's 9th and 10th right there, which means that Kowicki has been. We got to spin on the front stretch. It's Phil Parsons. No contact with the wall, no contact with any fellow competitor, at least after the spun ended. I don't know if there was any contact before it happened.
There's just a lot of smoke coming from Phil's car. He tries to get it going the right direction here as the yellow flag comes out. Phil Parsons losing it coming off of turn number 4 and coming to a halt just a few yards from the start-finish line. So the yellow flag out on lap number 49.
And while all this has been happening, by the way, Waltrip has kind of snuck quietly back out on the track, but without a doubt, his chances, of course, for victory are gone. But Darrell Waltrip back out trying to get some points. He's 10 laps down. The leaders are coming in. Here comes Earnhardt, Allison, Wallace, Elliott, Benny Parsons. Jerry Punch is there.
Here's the leader, Dale Earnhardt, in the Wrangler Chevrolet, the same car he won with at Richmond a few weeks ago, the same one he ran through the guardrail up there when the accelerator hung open. The car a little bit warped, but running awfully well today. They will make a 4-tire change. Now, on a 5/8 mile racetrack, it's very difficult to change 4 tires, even under caution, and not lose a lap. That's why you see the crew hustling, even under yellow, to try to get all 4 tires on. He's down and away. Great pit stop. The car number 9 in, Bill Elliott, getting his pit stop. For most of the cars. Most of the cars will take 4 tires, almost 4 fresh tires during this caution flag.
Benny Parsons actually was the first to complete his pit stop. He got out first, followed by Bill Elliott, and then Neil Bonnet and Dale Earnhardt, followed by Jeff Bodine, who of course is a lap down. There were 9 cars that did not pit from this yellow flag. And so Benny Parsons is going to be the leader when we go back to green, unless he comes in for another stop during this caution period, and I doubt that because it's probably going to be a very short caution since there was no contact made with the wall and nothing put down on the racetrack. Number 53, and Benny Parsons has the lead with Bill Elliott challenging in that 2nd position as that front row is back up in front, but this time it's the outside front row starter Benny Parsons who has the lead. Here's Dick Berggren.
Well, the pits have been a very busy place. How busy? Too busy. Bobby Allison, the second place car, just got trapped in here during his pit stop. Kulwicki got trapped in here during his pit stop. This is the tightest pit in Winston Cup racing. We even had a tire get run over, and right now one of the crew members on Alan Kulwicki's crew has suffered some sort of minor injury, and the safety crews are over there attending to him.
So the North Wilkesboro pit area full of action, and there's lots of action on the racetrack also as Dale Earnhardt continues to move up. He is now in actually third position. There is Jeff Bodine between Bill Elliott and Dale Earnhardt, but remember Bodine lost a lap on the crash that he suffered.
Yeah, a couple of observations about Bodine right there. You see the damage to the left rear. If he could just hold Earnhardt back, get to the front, get around both Bill and Benny, he has an opportunity to get his lap back. Waltrip, remember, got him now down unofficially by 9 laps. Just no chance whatsoever. But Bodine's got to race all three of those people at the same time. Looks like he may have a shot at Bill this time going down to 3 or 4, but at the same time, as he attempts to pass both Elliott in 9, Benny Parsons in 35, he's got to keep his mind on Earnhardt, because Earnhardt knows exactly what Jeff is trying to do, and that's get back to running at the same pace with the 3 of the others.
Now Dale Earnhardt moving to the outside of Jeff Bodine, may have bumped him just slightly. They go down the backstretch. Earnhardt pulls alongside him. He pulls ahead of him going into turn number 3, but Bodine will have nothing of that. He is 1 lap down. Should he get ahead of Bill Elliott and Benny Parsons, and we have a yellow, he would make his lap back.
Earnhardt's domination, his domination, Bob, of this season, you know, we think we've stumbled across maybe some of the reasons for it, but it goes beyond that which you can figure out or that which you think that you can determine by mental telepathy, I guess. I tell you, when you're on a roll, not only does the crew get more efficient, but the attitudes seem to carry right over and encroach on that subject of luck. The luck seems to fall your way, but everything works just perfectly. Dale right now is so strong this year.
And Bodine is falling back. Earnhardt has gotten around him, so has Bobby Allison. So for the moment, Jeff Bodine does not have a shot at getting his lap back. The battle is for second position. Earnhardt to the inside and Bill Elliott to the outside. Down the backstretch into turn 3. Who has the line? It's Earnhardt, and he goes into second position.
One aspect of the last pit stop that also surprised me was that Dale, remember, was already superior in the first prolonged green flag segment, but he changed 4 tires.
Oh, there's a lead change. It's Earnhardt to the inside, passing Benny Parsons.
Boy, that was quick. He took about a lap and a half to get past everybody else running second, third, and fourth, but as soon as he got close to Benny, zap, lightning struck.
And now Bobby Allison is making sure everyone knows that he's still around as he has moved alongside and trying to get ahead of Bill Elliott for that 3rd position.
As Allison moves under, Elliott was about to comment that Earnhardt had changed 4 tires on his stop, as did Rusty Wallace, but Elliott in 9 and Parsons in 35 only changed 2. So why they took the extra time to change the tire when it didn't seem like, change the 2 inside tires when it didn't seem like they needed to. Well, I guess only they know in the pits. Maybe the tires felt so good in the first segment, Richard said, hey, let's take those off, set them aside, and maybe we'll use those in the last 50 laps of this race.
Earnhardt has passed one of the back markers in this race, number 6, Bob Baker. Now the rest of the field moving around him as Baker moves to the inside down the straightaway and lets everybody else pass. You know, Larry, one of the guys that I think looks extremely strong is Bobby Allison. He has passed Benny Parsons. Allison goes to second. He qualified 4th at an average speed of 114.393 miles an hour. Allison sure looks strong here in the early going of this race.
Bob, we're also getting some conversation in the radios that they are considering throwing the caution flag because they may want to get an ambulance out. We've got a crash in turn 4. It's the number 62 car of Steve Chrisman out of Indiana. This may be the yellow that comes convenient for getting the ambulance out of the infield. You heard our report from the pits a little earlier that one of the crewmen had been injured.
The AC Spark Plugs Pontiac, driven by Steve Crispin from Fort Wayne, Indiana, makes contact with the wall in turn number 4 and does damage to the right front of that car. He is at the pit entrance, and he is right in the entrance to the pit area, and should we have some wholesale pit stops, now he gets the car in reverse and pulls out of the entrance, so that no longer is a factor. His crew will take a look to see whether or not he can get back in competition.
Indiana Carolina driver who's trying to make the grade down here. This is actually his 4th race of the 1987 season. He did finish at Atlanta, had a 22nd finish, but has had mechanical problems or other assorted situations in the other 2 races, Richmond and Darlington.
The 2 guys who were involved in that incident up in turn 3 early in the race, Darrell Waltrip and Jeff Bodine, are both back in the pit area. Here is Jerry Punch.
Darrell Waltrip comes in, he takes the car over, and the car begins to roll away. We're with car owner Rick Hendrick here. Rick, what exactly Darrell told us he had a tie rod break on the car.
I couldn't hear you, Jerry.
Darrell said he had a tie rod break on the car. They get the car fixed?
That's right, but the wheel's towed out now, so we need a long caution in order to get the front end line back up. So we're going to have to wait till it's going to be more than a 1 or 2 lap caution so we get the front end set back on the car. The right front tire's towed out on it.
Okay, that's Rick Hendrick, the car owner for Benny Parsons, Darrell Waltrip, and Jeff Bodine. If we leave anybody out, I think that'll do it. 3 cars.
Well, it isn't over for Darrell Waltrip, but he is going to have a lengthy caution period in order to get that car back at top speed. We're under caution for the 4th time here at North Wilkesboro. We'll be right back. Back at North Wilkesboro, where the caution flag remains out because of an incident in turn number 4 involving Steve Christman. He hit the wall up in that area and has retired to the pit area. Our concern also for a member of the Alan Kulwicki crew who has been injured. Let's go down to Dick Bergman for more on that, Dick.
Well, Bob, the man who was injured was a man named John Yunk. He is the crew chief for the Kulwicki crew, and he was apparently struck by a tire that came off another car. There were a lot of tires floating around here on pit road. He can't be too badly injured, however, because as the EMTs were attending to him, he asked for a radio so he could talk to Alan, and he's lying over here in the back of the truck talking to Alan and listening to the crew signals. Now, they've just taken him off in the direction of the ambulance, and they're going to take care of him. But I'll tell you what, this is a very busy, very difficult pit road.
Bob, I just met John for the first time on Friday here. He's from Bowling Green, Ohio, so all of our fans up there in the Ohio, southern Michigan part of the Midwest. He ran short tracks down there, and he and I were trading notes a couple days ago and found out that we frequented the same racetracks when we were growing up at Fremont, Ohio, and Findlay, Ohio. Hope John certainly is okay, and it's a good sign from that radio.
Jeff Bodine makes another pit stop as he is being loaded into the ambulance. Now, the reason we are having a lengthy caution period here is because the ambulance must get to the inside of the racetrack and outside by crossing the track. So we'll be right back in a moment. $75 out of 400 laps completed here at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. The first Union 400 and now an ESPN NASCAR Track Fact. Track Facts are brought to you by Robert Bosch Corporation, maker of Bosch Platinum, the ultimate spark plug.
On a super speedway, the cars are completely enclosed. The only windows that are open are the driver's window and the one across from him. But on the short track, that's not the case. As you see behind me, the rear windows have been removed, and there are reasons for that. As you see, the crew member has to reach in the car and make a chassis adjustment, and there are continuous chassis adjustments being made during the race. If the window were in place, he couldn't do that. Also, there's no air inside the car stirring on a short track. Some drivers say if you lit a candle in here, it wouldn't go out because no air gets in the car. But with that rear window removed, air will get in the car and keep the driver much cooler.
Well, they certainly don't need air in the cockpit today. As a matter of fact, these cool temperatures that the spectators have to endure are really ideal for a race car driver. It makes the temperature in the cockpit just about ideal for racing conditions. Here's the green flag. We go back to racing with Dale Earnhardt back in front, Bobby Allison running second, Bill Elliott is third, followed by Neil Bonnet and then Rusty Wallace. The number 35 car of Benny Parsons, which was up front, made a pit stop during that caution period and now works his way from the back of the pack.
If anybody in that first group right there of about 7 cars is gritting his teeth maybe just a little more than everybody else, it would be Ricky Rudd right there, the guy in the red and white number 15. Ricky Rudd, remember, lost a lap earlier in the race on a pit stop, and he has shown the ability to run up front on the short track. But right now, Elliott is putting on Ricky, and Ricky falls back to 5th in line, but he is 1 lap down. And incidentally, Benny Parsons, we are told on the radio, changed to spring during his pit stop. Jerry Punch is down in the pits with perhaps more on that subject.
Well, Benny Parsons came in under the caution. They took this right rear spring out of the car, a very stiff spring. They took it out. They put a softer spring in so the car would sit in the corner and it'd be able to turn it a little easier. A major chassis adjustment and possibly a good move for Harry Hyde, the crew chief on Benny Parsons' car.
We'll see how Benny's car performs now as he is trying to thread his way through the traffic. He has passed about 6 cars here since we went green, and Richard Petty is right ahead of him.
The guy who's really moving up also as we watch Parsons now holding his own, by the way, is Neil Bonnet. He has really stayed in the top 10 all day, and now he seems to have picked up a little bit of steam. There is Dale Jarrett on the outside of Richard Petty. Dale Jarrett, he has performed admirably this week. As we go back and take another look at Benny, Jarrett has qualified and practiced consistently in the upper half of the field, knocking on the door of the top 10.
Benny to the high side now of the number 80, the 81 car driven by Eddie Beerswale, and Benny is now in 17th position.
This is the last short track that Benny Parsons won at, by the way. The last time he ran any short track was in 1982 when he ran 5 short track races. There is Richard Petty moving on underneath Jarrett, and Benny taking a look to the inside. Benny trying to follow Richard through. Boy, talk about two guys who have been close to each other many times on a racetrack. Petty just ahead of Benny Parsons going to the inside of Dale Jarrett, one of the second-generation stars who is performing here today. Now to the Hardee's car cam. Inside the Red Baron frozen pizza machine following the Levi Garrett Chevy of Jeff Bodine.
Ken Schrader doing the driving, and it is Jeff Bodine right ahead of Ken Schrader and Brett Bodine right ahead of Brother Jeff. And now Brother Jeff goes to the inside of Brett. Cannot make the pass, but at least he let Brother Brett know that he was there.
You know, Brett told me, again, he's running 2 cars up ahead there. He told me yesterday, Bob, that the transition from the Grand National sportsman type stock cars to the Winston Cup cars was greater than that from the open wheel lighter weight modifieds to the Grand Nationals, which really surprised me. I felt that certainly the transition visually is tremendous, but he said, nope, moving up to these cars, I noticed the biggest difference of my career.
The Bodines are running back. Brett is in 8th position unofficially, and of course it is Jeff Bodine who is still down a lap. Great pictures from the Hardee's race cam inside the Red Baron Pizza number 90 owned by Judy Donlevy and driven by Ken Schrader. Now from our camera up on top of the main grandstand, we see how things look from that vantage point. Jeff Bodine and Brett Bodine are running, of course, in competition with each other here this weekend, and we asked them about that.
What's it like to run door to door, brother to brother?
I think everyone knows the way I feel about it. I don't like it. You know, there's 10 years difference in Brett and I, and when I started racing, he was still a kid. And the more I got into racing, the more he helped me. And we never played football against each other or baseball, anything. We never competed against each other. He was always helping me, big brother, race. And now that we have to go out there and have to go head to head and door to door to each other, I don't enjoy it.
When I was younger, I grew up watching Jeff race, and you know, through the years, I just kind of got used to him being a race car driver. Now, he's never really had a chance to watch me race that much, and now that we're competitors, it's a little harder on him than it is on me. I don't mind racing against him because I can trust him, you know, a little bit more than anybody else.
Well, Jeff is having a significant opportunity to watch his brother race right now, and right now, Jeff is showing him, as they say in the short track trade, the short way around the racetrack. Brett Bodine, yes, the one who most recently has been running the Busch Series Grand National cars and who graduated from the modifieds, right now leading his brother, Jeff Bodine. Jeff, of course, basically making the same route through the very gnarly, sometimes, path that it takes to get to Winston Cup stock car racing. And now Jeff is going to the inside of Brett. He's going to have the advantage going into turn number 3. Let's see if he can lead foot it in. Yep, he gets a fender ahead, now a whole car length.
Well, this is only Brett Bodine's second Winston Cup race. His first was last year at Charlotte. He finished in 18th spot. And we watched that activity and the battle for that spot from the Hardee's race cam and Ken Schrader's car.
Off of turn 4, down the front stretch. Remember, it's only 5/8 of a mile all the way around here.
And that in-car camera is provided by Hardee's Restaurants. At Hardee's, we're out to win you over. You can see the competition up ahead as several cars are running right side by side. Now we turn the camera around and look out the back deck.
This is what Kenny Schrader is seeing in his rearview mirror. There's Alan Kowicki again, Harry again on the outside. Kowicki and Schrader have been close for much of this race. Alan's had a strong race, but you heard from the pits during the last pit stop when the wholesale crew, or field rather, came in, that Alan got kind of caught in one of those warps that occurs down there. Really penalized him on the racetrack. He lost several car lengths, several positions.
And
there is Neil Bonnet, yeah.
The battle for third place as Bodine and Neil Bonnet are right together on the racetrack, and lurking in the shadows is Rusty Wallace in car number 27. So that's a good battle here. 3 cars for third spot.
Yeah, Bonnet has redesigned the nose of that Pontiac. This being if this was a super speedway, that would be a serious problem because it's not in a very conducive place to make the air flow smooth over and around that car. But here in a short track, no harm, no foul, as they say in basketball. Neil Bonnet having a good race. We commented briefly on that earlier. Bonnet started back in 21st position. There goes Rusty Wallace to the inside of Bill Elliott. And Wallace, that we heard earlier, was saying, hey, I'm not really happy with the brake situation. Seems to be getting along well. Gave a wave to Bill Elliott. Apparently he felt that Bill made it easy on him, that Bill sensed that Rusty was the superior car, and Bill didn't bang on him, as is a custom on occasion on a short track. Rusty giving a knowledgeable, friendly wave to Bill as he goes by.
Dale Earnhardt is the leader, and he has just completed 100 laps. A fourth of this race is over, and in the first quarter of the race, we have had 3 leaders. Earnhardt, of course. Bill Elliott has led. Also, Benny Parsons has led 12 laps, and under the caution flag, Slick Johnson in car number 12 led a lap. At the end of 100 laps, though, you can see that the margin is 2 seconds, and the average speed is 83.60 miles an hour, and Earnhardt has led the most laps. As far as caution periods are concerned, there have been 4. A 3-lap caution for a spin in turn number 3 involving the number 12 car of Slick Johnson. Also, we had a caution for a couple of other spins and 1 accident, but nothing serious to this point. Out of the race is J.D. McDuffie, Steve Christman, and Jimmy Means. Jerry Punch is down in the pit area with this report.
Well, this is Barry Dotson, the crew chief for Rusty Wallace. And Barry, we've been told that you might have a brake problem on the car. Exactly what's wrong with the car?
Yeah, the cold weather, we don't have enough ducking to it. We can fix it on a caution. As soon as we get the caution, we'll be okay.
Well, it's awfully tough to drive here with no brakes or minimal brakes. You can run over somebody or get run over. A serious problem for Rusty Wallace right now.
But Rusty is sure doing well out there as he's right behind Neil Bonnet now, who's in third.
Their short track program has really come along, Bob, in the last 18 months. A very brief and unofficial rundown as we go back up front, check on the leader's progress. No problem there. Allison was second, then Elliott, Neil Bonnet, Rusty Wallace was fifth, Morgan Shepherd a strong sixth, Kyle Petty seventh, number 11 car with Brett Bodine was eighth, Kenny Schrader was ninth, and Michael Waltrip was running in 10th. There were 10 other cars still on the lead lap.
By the way, the first caution brought out by a spin by Bobby Hillen and not Slick Johnson. We'll be back with more of the First Union 400. We are back in North Wilkesboro, and Dale Earnhardt continues to be the leader of this race. And by the way, he has just lapped Benny Parsons there in the number 35 car. Earnhardt's margin at this point is just about 4 seconds over the number 22 car of Bobby Allison. There are 16 cars on the lead lap. So obviously that spring change that Harry Hyde and crew made on the Benny Parsons car just didn't work. He is down a lap, running in 17th position.
Bob, not only 16 cars on the lead lap, but Earnhardt is picking them off at a rate of about 1 every 2 laps, taking 1 less car off of the lead lap.
There you can see that Dale has led 1,065 of 2,216 possible laps, 48%. Quite a record.
Quite a record, and the 50% is only emblematic. It's only an indication of how strong he has been. Under green flag conditions and not interrupted by pit stops, that record or that percentile is up much closer to about 2/3 or 66 or 67%.
Now there are only 14 cars on the lead lap, as Earnhardt has also put the number 16 car of Larry Pearson down a lap and Sterling Marlin in 44. And we see some smoke coming from the number 34 machine driven by Jesse Samples Jr. Now, if the NASCAR officials determine that he is leaking some oil, we will have a caution period. There are a couple of people that would like to see a caution period, namely Rusty Wallace to help his brake problem and Neil Bonnet to possibly correct his radiator problem.
Richard Childress' team has been assisting this young driver. He's just a teenager. He's 19 years of age. He came out of the ranks of the Charlotte Daytona Dash Series last year, where he won a race on a super speedway at Charlotte as just an 18-year-old.
Samples in the pit area, so there will not be a caution because of this smoke coming from the car. Here comes Earnhardt off the fourth corner, completing another lap. Neil Bonnet may have some problems and may be dropping back. Let's go down to Dick Berggren for a report.
Well, I'm with Bob Rahilly. He builds the engines for Neil Bonnet. He's also a half car owner. You're running well, but you've got a lot of damage to the front end of the car, Bob. Is that affecting the performance? Is his temperature going up?
No, it's not. We've been up the grill, but it's a real cool day, and it's only running 190 degrees. The car's working real good. We're a little bit loose off the corner, but on that last caution flag, we only took on 2 tires. Everybody else took on 4. So as soon as we get on 4 tires, we'll be in real good shape.
That's Bob Rahilly. He is with Neil Bonnet. Meanwhile, Jerry punches down pit road with Harry Hyde. Jerry?
Harry Hyde, the crew chief for Benny Parsons. And Harry, do you have a handling problem, or do you have a chassis problem with the car?
No, we got screwed up, put the wrong tires on him. We'll get him straightened out next pit stop if it ain't too late. It's our fault, ain't his fault.
Okay, a wrong stagger. You see how important the stagger can be, and the wrong stagger on parts of the car, that's why he's going backwards.
All right, Benny's still in 17th spot. Now,
Dave Marcus.
Oh, a spin. Dave Marcus is sideways in the racetrack up between turns 3 and 4. This is going to bring out a caution period, and this will be possibly the saving grace for Benny Parsons. They can get that stagger problem corrected, and Rusty Wallace may also be able to work on his brakes. Neil Bonnet is still in 3rd position, so apparently that damage he has at the front of the car is not giving him any serious problems.
A couple of other people that benefited from this, Bob, was Michael Waltrip, Richard Petty, Harry Gant, and Ken Schrader with our camera car. They were only about 3 seconds at the outset away from Earnhardt, and Earnhardt was coming quickly.
So this is the 5th caution period of the afternoon, and it comes out on lap number 122. Earnhardt is pitting, so is Bobby Allison, Benny Parsons, Rusty Wallace, Morgan Shepherd, Jeff Bodine making another stop. Neil Bonnet is in for some pit service, as is Ricky Rudd, Ken Schrader, Harry Gant, and others. We're watching the stop by the Dale Earnhardt crew, and here is Neil Bonnet. You can see the damage there to the front end of the car, but they're not paying particularly close attention to it. Rather, they're changing the tires on that car. Rusty Wallace, meanwhile, in the number 27 machine, the Kodiak Pontiac, they're changing the left side tires on that machine also, and they're taking a look at the front end of the race car.
Going to go inside, taking off those protective covers, getting a little bit of cooler air in there, which is rather interesting. Hoping to offset, to counteract whatever brake problems that Rusty thinks he has, and Dick Berggren is there.
One of the interesting things about this race is that in the last practice yesterday afternoon, everybody seemed to time just about the same as everybody else. We had about 20 cars going as fast as each other. And this is the result. Everybody is very fast. Everybody thinks they can lead. Almost every car we see running through the pits has got tire marks on, or marks of other cars on the tires. They're all damaged. Boy, this is a tough race so far.
It really is, as we mentioned earlier. There is Brett Bodine. His car just fell off the jacks as they were changing tires on the left side. As we mentioned earlier, anytime we have a race at North Wilkesboro, you see a lot of paint trading out there.
What a tough break for Brett Bodine. You just saw the car. They were just getting ready to drop the car off the jack, and apparently the jack just gave way. The left rear tire had not been attached. The crew jumped over, picked the car up physically off the ground, put the tire back on it, reattached the lug nuts, a brake for Bodine. Had that tire bent something in the rear end, it could have been a long day for Brett Bodine.
Yeah, not something that is a very good idea, Bob, I'll tell you what. And with the inexperience that Brett has, this little incident right here may come back to haunt them in the future, because it may have made a minor problem in the machine that may rear its head later in the race.
But Brett Bodine is back on the racetrack. He was just doing what comes naturally, because when the car comes down off the jack, you assume it's ready to run. That wasn't the case this time. Back in a moment at North Wilkesboro. We have just gone green again here at North Wilkesboro, and they're running 3, sometimes 4 abreast out there. Bobby Allison is alongside Ken Schrader. Neil Bonnet now moving to the inside of Ken Schrader. And there we are inside Ken Schrader's Red Baron machine, the Hardee's race cam. He just dropped to 4th position as both Neil Bonnet and Bobby Allison passed him. But it's a good ride for Ken Schrader.
400 laps to go in the race. At this point, we have 129 that are down, so a significant ways to go. But last week, recall at Darlington, those of you that were with us, there was basically one car in the middle stages of the race that could keep up with the other one. That number 3 car was number 88, Buddy Baker. This year, or this week, there's still only one car seemingly able to keep up Bobby Allison.
Here's a good battle for position. This is the 9th place number 26 car of Morgan Shepherd, the Quaker State car, green one, and the number 7 Xerox car driven by Alan Kowicki. Now Bobby Hillen in the number 8 car is on the same lap, so this is a 3-car battle. Bobby Hillen, Morgan Shepherd, and Alan Kowicki.
Bob Shepherd is one of the top 5 cars here today. He was in the pits for a little longer period of time than what they would have preferred on that last yellow flag, but that right there, the 26 car, the Quaker State Buick, is one of the top 5 cars to this point.
Bobby Allison was running 2nd, came out in 3rd. Neil Bonnet went in 3rd, came out in 4th. Elliott came in 6th position, picked up a spot to move to 5th, and Ken Schrader is the one that had the great pit stop and picked up a lot of positions. He went in the pits in 10th position and came out in 2nd. He has now dropped to 4th spot.
Bobby picked up so much ground, I thought he had lost a lap, and that's why he was positioned right behind the leader, Dale Earnhardt, but not so, as Ed Gravik pointed out. Great pit stop by Bob Johnson, Junie Dunleavy, and crew on Schrader.
There is Dale Earnhardt, the leader. Bobby Allison there, the 3rd car. The car between Earnhardt and Allison is a back marker, the number 64 car of Jerry Cranmer. Now Bobby Allison goes to the outside of that Cranmer car, going into turn number 1 and passes. Neil Bonnet will be the next to pass Cranmer, and then Ricky Rudd, who's a lap down. Bobby Allison in the number 22 Miller American Buick having a fine run here this afternoon. He is in 2nd position. 75 car behind Bobby Allison, and then the 15 of Ricky Rudd.
Neil Bonnet in the Raymont number 75 Valvoline car. He wins on the average of about 2 races a year, and it's been pretty consistent over the last decade for Bonnet, and he has also had a reasonably good year. You know, that guy is 3rd in points. It's been a very quiet 3rd. It's pretty easy to figure out who's leading and who's 2nd in points, but Bonnet is the leader of the next echelon, sort of like everybody else is the 2nd echelon in 1987.
Neil Bonnet's had 3 top 10 finishes this year. He was 3rd at Rockingham, 7th at Atlanta, and 6th last weekend at Darlington. His other 2 finishes at 12th in Daytona 500 and at 22nd at Richmond. But Neil Bonnet, as you indicated, Larry, 3rd in the Winston Cup points going into this race. Ken Schrader now beginning to feel some pressure from Bill Elliott there in the number 9. Benny Parsons is the number 35. Remember, he is down a lap, but they may have corrected that stagger problem. Jerry Punch.
Well, here's the right rear tire that came off of Brett Bodine's car. You can say they do a little bit of framing and bamming. See this color here? That's Rusty Wallace. This yellow color, that's Jeff Bodine. I'd say that these guys get together a little bit and have some fun on the short tracks.
Jerry,
let's go down to my colleague Dick Berger.
And I am with Ivan Baldwin, who is with the 9 car of Elliott. Ivan, you're a little off the pace. What's going on?
The car's just a little bit loose. And Bill's not trying to get in no big hurry. It's a long day, so we're finding out the car needs a little bit lower gear to run with the Chevrolets up off the corner. And, he'll be there at the end.
You can change the loose on the pit stops, but you can't change the gear. Can you fix that car well enough to get back up front?
Yeah, as the track gets slipperier and slippery, and the horsepower of the Chevrolets have to go away.
And the track should get more slippery because the temperature is rising. I've just shucked one jacket. It's getting warmer up here.
It's not so much that they're out horsepower, it's just the Chevrolets pull a lot lower gear than we do. And as the track slows down a little bit, they get off the corner a little better.
And that's the story from Elliott's pit.
All right, I wanted to ask Jerry Punch why he was wearing gloves, but really the question that I wanted to ask has been answered pretty much. How are the weather conditions down there, Jerry? Is it extremely cold for you?
Well, it's been about 42 to 44 degrees early this morning, but now the wind has died down. It's probably closer to 50 degrees. It's a beautiful day here in the Blue Ridge Mountains, much warmer than it was yesterday, and we're having a good day. While I have it just a moment, the guy standing beside me is Tim Brewer. He was the crew chief for 4 different drivers who won here at Wilkesboro. He won with Cale Yarborough, Tim Richmond, Harold Waltrip, and Neil Bonnet. And we have Brewer with us, and I want to ask you about that pit stop. Tim, how about that pit stop with the left rear tire? What happened?
Car simply fell off the jack, Jerry. You know, we were planning on getting 4 the first time, but we got parked on the outside out there. It's kind of hard to plug up pit road that long, so we just decided to get 2 and come back in. The car went up there, fine tires came off. All of a sudden, the car fell off the jack. Just one of them deals.
You got to be pretty impressed with your young driver so far, doing a heck of a job.
Well, he's doing pretty good right now. We're a little bit further behind what we planned on being right about this point, but I think we can get it back, you know, as soon as this traffic thins out a little bit.
That's Tim Brewer, the crew chief for Brett, Rhode Island.
All right, we're watching a 3-car battle, but it's actually only a 2-car battle for position. The number 26 car of Morgan Shepherd is 9th, and Rusty Wallace in number 27 is in 10th position. The number 44 car of Sterling Marlin, which was in the shot just a minute ago, is a lap down in 19th position.
Bob, one more comment about the weather today. Dick Bertrand said he had peeled off the outer layer. He's taken one jacket off. Started today, I counted them, there were 5 collars shown. Yeah. Not because Dick is a softie. He's himself, as a matter of fact, a pretty good race car driver. But it was that biting. It was a kind of incisive cold at the time. It would just cut right into you, cut through you, as a matter of fact, like a hot knife through butter. It's been a really miserable weekend, and for the people who have showed up here today, I really commend them. The racing here is good at North Wilkes. You see a lot of action. I think that's the reason why so many people have braved the cold weather. We got a full grandstand here in the front stretch.
Yeah, Dick was definitely displaying the layered look earlier, but especially when the sun is out, it's rather comfortable here, although the cool breeze does continue. No snowflakes, though. We had quite a snowstorm here Friday night, and it snowed about an inch, or rather 10 inches, or close to a foot up in the mountains. We're back in the Red Barons Ken Schrader car with our Hardee's race cam, and again, Alan Kowicki right ahead of him.
And there is the king, Richard Petty. See that characteristic STP orange or international orange or Dayglow orange helmet, whatever you like. Richard getting around Kenny, and there is Alan Kowicki again, just 2 cars up. Commented earlier how often the Kowicki and the number 90 of Kenny Schrader have been together.
We have completed 151 out of 400 laps. That will make up the first Union 400 here at North Wilkesboro, and the lead continues to be held by Dale Earnhardt in the Wrangler Jeans Chevy. We'll be back with more of our live coverage here on ESPN. The first Union 400 Winston Cup race from North Wilkesboro, North Carolina is being brought to you by the heartbeat of America, today's Chevrolet. By the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. No matter how far you go, Goodyear takes you home. And in part by Mr. Goodwrench. No one knows your car better than Mr. Goodwrench. No one. The leader is Dale Earnhardt from Kannapolis, North Carolina. And in second position is Neil Bonnet with the number 21 car of Kyle Petty running in third position. And Dale now moves to the inside to pass Larry Pearson. The best battle on the racetrack is Bill Elliott and Ken Schrader, and that's for 8th spot.
A couple of Fords that have been so dominant in qualifying this year. A Ford sat on the pole again. Bill Elliott, the leader of that duo right there, his first short track pole ever in his career, and it was a significant one. It broke a 6-year-old track record, one of the oldest, if not the oldest, in NASCAR.
We'll just let you enjoy a lap or two here in the Hardee's race cam in the Red Baron Pizza Machine as he follows Bill Elliott around this .625-mile racetrack. Instead, right now, we'll go to the race for second position. Since it's really heating up, here is Kyle Petty making a move on Neil Bonnet for second position. To the inside is Petty, and by golly, he has that position. A good run for Kyle Petty. He moves to the runner-up position.
A very good run for Kyle Petty. There are a lot of people who wonder exactly what's going on with Kyle. It's no secret that some people from time to time question, but it seems like whenever you begin to hear the conversation, that Kyle turns in a good event. This car has won here twice in the past, Wood Brothers machine.
More and more of the teams here are beginning to call their cars by ladies' names. And Neil Bonnet's car is called Jenny. And it's the case with ladies when they tend to get old, sometimes they need a little surgery. And after Richmond, Jenny had a nose job. They cut her off at the firewall because Bonnet really belted the wall with her. And this is her first race since. The team says it's one of their best cars. In fact, Morgan Shepherd liked the car so much last year, he wanted to buy it. Well, old Jenny just got passed. She's in third now.
Kyle Petty in second, now moving to the high side of Dave Marcus going into turn number 3. By the way, this is the 601st start for the Wood Brothers, the owners of this car and the crew that works on it. Their career dating back to 1953.
Bob Petty started the race in 12th, but by putting together all of the qualifiers from the morning session and the afternoon session, he was the 4th quickest overall. A time of 19.645 seconds compared to the 19.39 that Bill Elliott, the pole setter, had. But the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth place cars were all in the 19.6.
And another guy who's showing some strength here today is Harry Gant in number 33. There he is behind Dave Marcus. Gant is in 4th position. They need a good run here this afternoon.
They really do. And even though he didn't qualify all that well, he started 16th. Again, in practice, he was one of the consistent 1970 cars, so I'm not really surprised to see him running comfortably in the top 10 in the race. Something happened in qualifying. It all didn't come together just the way they had hoped for, but in practice, they definitely fit in that category that Dick Burton was mentioning a few minutes ago, that it seemed like there were 20 cars all running about the same. Harry was definitely in the upper half of them.
And Harry Gant is, believe it or not, 22nd in the point standings going into this event. It has not been a particularly good year for him. He's only had one top 10 finish. That was last week at Darlington. And by the way, Travis Carter, the crew chief on this car, was fined $500 at Darlington last weekend for having titanium near the hubs. That was one of 2 fines handed out by NASCAR officials.
One other comment, Bob. This is the last place where Harry won, 1985. Here's Will.
There you can see Earnhardt now right up on the rear bumper of Brett Bodine, and Brett Bodine is in 13th position. Should Earnhardt be able to pass him here and lap him, we would have 12 cars on the lead lap. Down the straightaway, Earnhardt does pass Brett Bodine. 12 cars on the lead lap here at North Wilkes.
Just a comment about Brett's race. He told me very specifically and very concisely on Friday when we talked that his primary goal today was to get as many points for Terry as he possibly could, as Earnhardt now fills the rearview mirrors of Benny Parsons, and looks like Benny is going to go 1 lap down. Bodine did not want to go out, embarrass himself, damage the car, and cost Terry points. Remember that Terry started this car, Terry Labonte, who has the injured shoulder blade, and Brett is out trying to collect as many points for him as he possibly can.
Benny Parsons actually will be 2 laps down now, as he lost a lap earlier. He did come in to try to correct that stagger problem during the most recent caution period, but it's obviously just not working for Harry Hyde and Benny Parsons in this race here today. The number 22 car driven by Bobby Allison and Bill Elliott running right together on the racetrack for 6th.
And here comes Elliott now beginning to put one on Bobby. First half of this, well, almost up to the halfway point. Allison has been the superior car among those two, but right now, Elliott looks like he's caught up, and there is Rusty Wallace. Rusty Wallace, consistent day, short track strong in 1986, looks like more of the same in 1987. The question on the Kodiak car, of course, is were they successful in not solving, but at least equalizing the problem they had with the brakes.
And right behind Rusty Wallace in that Kodiak car is the Red Baron machine of Ken Schrader. And now we'll give you a lap or two with Ken Schrader in the Hardee's race cam. Rusty Wallace has moved to the inside of Bill Elliott. And the number 90 car is right behind Bill Elliott there in car number 9. By the way, Dale Earnhardt, the leader of the race, has led 150 of the 175 laps that we have run. Now it is Rusty Wallace moving to the inside of Bobby Allison and trying to take away that 8th spot.
We are running ahead of the pace for yellow flags in this race. I believe there have been like 5 yellow flags up to this point. Yeah, 5 to be exact. And the typical North Wilkesboro race has only 6. But the other factor that once again begins to come close to the surface is that Earnhardt is getting close to some of the cars that have been running competitively and is going to be soon threatening to put a lap on people like Morgan Shepherd, Ken Schrader, who you're riding with right now, Bill Elliott right there to his left, Bobby Allison on the high side, and right in front of them is Rusty Wallace. Earnhardt is only about 10 car lengths behind the picture you're looking at right now.
There are 11 cars on the lead lap. Here are those 11 cars and drivers. The leader is Earnhardt. Second is Kyle Petty. Third, Neil Bonnet. Fourth is Harry Gant. In fifth position is Alan Kowicki. Richard Petty runs 6th. Bill Elliott 7th, followed by Bobby Allison, Rusty Wallace, Ken Schrader, and Morgan Shepherd. And as you indicated, it is Dale Earnhardt who is approaching the Morgan Shepherd car. Actually, these positions here have traded just in the last few laps. And it is Rusty Wallace who has now moved into that 7th spot.
Everybody right now is keeping their eye on that yellow and blue Chevrolet, the Wrangler car. And everybody that's mixed up right now is trying to do their best to stay ahead. Everybody's going to start scrambling. It is customary in motor racing to move over for the leader, but when you're in the same lap, you try to hold on as tenaciously and as long as you can. Let's see how these Fords plus the mix of Allison's Buick plays it.
We watch Dale Earnhardt go topside of Ken Schrader in corner number 3. But there is 2 abreast in front of Earnhardt, so he'll not be able to make another move here until those cars get into single file formation. And Bobby Allison and Bill Elliott running side by side. Look at the action ahead of Ken Schrader.
Not only is the action great, but once again, a replay of 1987.
Oh, here comes Morgan Shepherd sticking his nose to the outside of Ken Schrader. Just some tremendous racing. We're watching pictures from the Hardee's race cam in the number 90 Red Baron frozen pizza machine driven by Ken Schrader. And the fans here in the grandstand, perhaps it's an effort to keep warm, but I don't think so. They're on their feet cheering and watching this battle as about 6 cars go at it nose to tail and side by side.
Elliott has got to be the most surprised group of that quintet. Elliott is down on the inside trying to hold off, trying to stave off. There you can see Earnhardt moving to the inside. He's got Elliott on the high side right now. Elliott is still blocked from your view. You can see Earnhardt between the Morgan Shepherd car and the Bobby Allison car. Elliott is trying to get around Rodney Combs. Rodney Combs in the Dygard car gives enough room. Elliott's trying to hold on. There goes Earnhardt. That car getting the same bite it had throughout the 1987 season. And Dale Earnhardt, less than halfway through this race, although we're very close. Who would have thought it is putting a lap under green flag on the pole setter and new record holder?
Bill Elliott broke a qualifying record that had stood for many, many years. He won the pole position for the first time on a short track in his career, but he has been lapped by leader Dale Earnhardt. We'll be back in a moment after these messages. We'll be back with more exciting Winston Cup racing on a short track. Bristol, Tennessee is the site. Next Sunday at 1 o'clock live, the Valleydale 500. And still, there's some great competition going on in the racetrack as we're back with the Hardee's Race Cam and the Red Baron Pizza Machine. Behind Bill Elliott. There you can see the NBA scores in the third period. Philadelphia leading. Violent indoor tennis match going on this afternoon.
Elliott and Schrader just put a lap on the 6 car. That is, of course, DK Ulrich's car. Those of you who are frequent observers of NASCAR recognize that. It's being driven this week by Bobby Baker, a Lakeland, Florida driver who hasn't really had all that many years of experience, but he's one of those guys who's every year has tried to make an improvement. He's making the big jump to Winston Cup racing in 1987.
Earnhardt is about to lap Rusty Wallace, who's 7th. Let's see how he accomplishes that feat. They come off of the 4th corner, and Earnhardt looks like may go to the inside of Rusty, but Rusty slams the door on him going into turn number 1 and holds off the pass for at least the time being. See how Dale handles the situation going down the backstretch. Rusty in 7th position, but just about to lose a lap. Let's get down to Jerry Punch in the pit area.
Well, we talk about Dale Earnhardt and how well he's running. Richard Childress, the car owner, just told me, he said, you know, the car isn't exactly right. I said, my gracious, the car is not exactly right here. You got to remember, a few weeks ago, this was a brand new race car. They took the car to Richmond, Virginia, and went out to practice. Richard Childress told Dale Earnhardt, said, now go out and break the car in. And Dale did. He went out and broke it into a lot of little pieces. Right through the guardrail with the throttle stuck. They took the car and had to rebuild it, came out and won the race at Richmond. They had to rebuild the car again, and they say the chassis is still warped on the car. It does not run like they wanted to, but he says, I guess we'll have to live with it.
Well, they've done what appears to be an excellent job in any case. It may not just be right, but it is far superior than any other machine on the racetrack, as Earnhardt has a considerable lead over second place number 21 Kyle Petty.
Bob, what are we down to? Like only 4 or 5 cars on the lead lap, and it really underscores the performance of those who have been able to stay on the lead lap. But Earnhardt, he is leading with such ease, and he is so much stronger than everybody.
Yeah, we have 6 cars on the lead lap as Rusty Wallace has been passed, and he is in 7th position. So we are past the halfway mark. And at that point, the leader was Dale Earnhardt. He had also led the most laps. His margin over Kyle Petty, about 9.5 seconds. And Earnhardt is averaging almost 92.5 miles an hour. Next is our recap of the caution periods that we have had here this afternoon. They have been for spins and minor accidents, but no serious incidents to this point. At 205 laps, the top 5 once again are Dale Earnhardt, Kyle Petty, Neil Bonnet, Alan Kulwicki, and Harry Gant. The second 5, 6 through 10, Richard Petty. Then a lap down, Rusty Wallace, Jeff Bodine, Morgan Shepherd, and Phil Parsons. And officially in 11th position would be Bill Elliott, and in 12th, Ken Schrader.
And for those of you who like to keep up, next, all these guys either 1 or 2 laps down, 13 through 19. We've got Brett Bodine, Bobby Allison, very surprising he's down that low. Ricky Rudd, Bobby Hillen Jr., Benny Parsons, Michael Waltrip, and the number 16 car of Larry Pearson.
For the moment, Dale Earnhardt is making a shambles of this 400 lapper here at North Wilkesboro. Now NASCAR and ESPN with another track fact. Track facts are brought to you by Quaker State. New Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer.
There are a number of technical advances that have come into play in NASCAR and Winston Cup competition, but none so important as the new computerized scale. In the old days, the drivers used to drive their cars up on grain scales, much like farmers use in the Midwest to load their trucks on with soybean or corn and get them weighed. But today, we have this metallic scale, a computerized scale. Under each wheel, the car is lowered on this scale. It's attached to a separate computer. You flip a switch on this computer, it will tell you that the right rear, for example, weighs 766 pounds. That is 21.9% of the total car's weight. You can measure the weight on the left rear, left front, and right front, or any combination thereof. A simple chassis adjustment will make the weights change over each individual wheel. Quite an advance over the old-timey grain scales.
Another way that computers are being used in Winston Cup competition. Dale Earnhardt is the leader. Kyle Petty, though, is showing in second position. Let's go down to Dick Bergeron, who's with Leonard Wood.
Well, Bob, Kyle Petty is running well in second position, and I'm with his crew chief, Leonard Wood. Leonard, can you guys do anything at all with Dale Earnhardt?
I don't think so. We've adjusted the chassis, and he's running much better than he did first of the race. But Earnhardt looked like he's got a little too much for us today.
The weather has warmed up. Has that affected the way your car is running?
The weather?
Yeah, it's warmed up. Has it affected the way your car is running?
It's handling a little bit different than it did yesterday evening, but we made some adjustments, and it seems to be doing okay right now.
What will be your pit stop strategy if it stays green?
Well, we'll just come in, you know, and we're due for gas, you know, and change tires and go on.
How soon will you have to come in, Leonard?
I'll have to check the rundown.
Okay, they're going to have to take a look at it and see. We have had an extended green flag period here. Kyle Petty running in second. Very strong run for him today.
Indeed, but he is 14 seconds behind the leader, Dale Earnhardt, and you're talking laps that, what, are about 23, 24 seconds? Was that it?
Yeah, I think they're running a little quicker than that now. But, Bob, for me, it's not so much Earnhardt's lap speed that is so surprising in this race. I'm not really surprised to see that man out front doing well. But from the rest of the field, it's a race of surprises for me. Several people that I expected to be on the same lead lap, number 5, Jeff Bodine, and number 27, Rusty Wallace, among those people, are not. I expected Morgan Shepherd to be up there. Certainly Bill Elliott and Ken Schrader. Bobby Allison has been having bad handling problems the last 15 laps. He has dropped a lap down, and Benny Parsons, we saw his problem. Those are all the surprises. There's Phil Parsons. He is in 10th position unofficially. He is also a lap down. And it's just as surprising to see Kyle Petty, Neil Bonnet, and Alan Kowicki running on the same lap with the leader.
Dick referred to the fact that we have been green here for quite a while. As a matter of fact, we went green after a 4-lap caution period on lap 126, and we are now at lap 219. So there has been almost 100 laps here run under the green flag. There is Phil Parsons in the number 55 Copenhagen Oldsmobile. Phil, of course, from Denver, North Carolina. As we go back and check on the leader, Dale Earnhardt, who now is lapping the number 33 car of Harry Gant. And now there are only 4 cars on the lead lap as Gant drops to a lap down in 5th spot.
Dale Earnhardt, there he is, looking at the back bumper of Darrell Waltrip, who courteously moves over, probably gives him a glance and saying, boy, I'm envious, fella, but today obviously is not my day. He's the man who dominated the short tracks, the 8 races, in 1985. He won twice at Bristol, he won at Richmond, and he also won at Martinsville. He had 2 fourths. That was 1985. He was strong in 86, but he didn't dominate quite as much.
Here's a field summary for you, going back and checking on the drivers that are still in competition here. The leader is Dale Earnhardt in the number 3 Wrangler Chevrolet. He was also the leader at the halfway mark in the Richmond 400. Now, right behind Dale Earnhardt is the number 33 car of Harry Gant. Now, he was just lapped, and Gant is in 5th position.
After 4 years in a row of winning, Harry Gant was winless in 86, and the mountain looks very tall in 1987 likewise.
Behind Gant is the number 17 car of Darrell Waltrip. He was involved in an incident early in the race on lap number 19 and is several laps down. The number 64 car is next. Jerry Cranmer from New Jersey is driving that car here this weekend. This is the Sonny King Ford Elmo Langley-owned car.
Jerry, of course, once again is a graduate from the open wheel modified.
And then Benny Parsons in car number 35, who has had considerable trouble here this afternoon with stagger and springs. He is in 18th position, 2 laps down. Right behind him is Larry Pearson in car number 16, the Chattanooga Chew Chevrolet.
One of 3 of the Busch Grand National Series drivers who's in this race. Brett Bodine, who qualified Junior Johnson's car, and Dale Jarrett that has taken over the Friedlander machine.
In 6th position is the number 5 car of Jeff Bodine. He was involved in that incident with Darrell Waltrip. However, he only lost 1 lap and has stayed a lap down since that time in 6th position.
The original Hendrick driver who sat on the front row 14 times last year.
And a good run for Phil Parsons in the number 55 car. He is 7th, right behind Jeff Bodine. So that is, in a sense, a battle for position between those 2 cars. Here's the Slick Johnson car, the number 12 machine that's owned by the Hamby team. This car was qualified this weekend by Doug Wolfgang, or at least Wolfgang practiced in it. He did qualify it also, but Doug decided not to compete here this weekend, and Slick Johnson took over the controls. The number 43 car, that's of course the familiar STP Pontiac, driven by Richard Petty, and he is in 8th.
Dave Marcus in the number 71 machine. Dave was involved in a spin in the earlier part of this race. His best 87 finish was an 8th at Richmond. Remember, his last win, coming about 5 years ago, was on ESPN in a rain-shortened event.
The number 27 car, winner of 2 races last year on the Winston Cup Trail, is Rusty Wallace. This is the Kodiak-sponsored machine. Rusty, while running in the top 5 earlier in the race, has dropped now to number 9 spot.
Both of Wallace's career wins came in 1986. There's Morgan Shepherd. Ooh, he was way high. Dale Jarrett, take a look at the inside of that one.
Morgan Shepherd is in 10th position, and he's running a high line out there. Look at him go way high in turns number 1 and 2. Running right beside him is the number 18 car, driven by Dale Jarrett, and he is in 20th position, 2 laps to the rears. Look at Morgan Shepherd and the high line he has taken in that number 26 Quaker State Buick, owned by Kenny Bernstein.
Shepherd, we commented in the earlier part of the race, I personally felt that it was one of the 5 fastest cars, but since the last yellow flag, the car just has not had the best setup that it had earlier in the race. He's really dropped off the pace that he himself was running.
And there is the Friedlander Chevrolet, driven this weekend by Dale Jarrett. Tommy Ellis used to drive the car, but Dale Jarrett is in it this weekend. Ricky Rudd is in 11th position, a lap down, and that number 15 Motorcraft Ford, owned by Bud Moore. Ricky, a winner already this year on the Winston Cup circuit.
And one of the acknowledged superstars under normal conditions of the short track.
And there is Bill Elliott in the Coors Ford number 9. He is in 12th spot. There's a good look at Bill, who sat on the pole for this race. The first short track pole ever for Awesome Bill from Dawsonville.
Only 4 drivers in Winston Cup racing have won at least one main event for 5 years in a row, and Elliott, who's right now racing with a little debris caught on the grill, is one of those drivers.
Normally that might cause a problem, but not on a cool day like today. Brett Bodine is running 13th after taking over the controls from Terry Labonte on the pace lap. Labonte gets credit for starting the race, or at least gets the points, but Brett Bodine took over in relief as Labonte still is suffering from that broken scapula at Darlington last weekend. Kyle Petty is in 2nd position, about 14 seconds behind the leader, Dale Earnhardt.
And he does have one career win that took place in 1986. Remember the big crash at Richmond on the final lap, what proved to be the final lap, and Kyle Petty snaked through to win.
And right behind Kyle Petty is Neil Bonnet, and he is in 3rd spot. In the number 75 car, the Valvoline Pontiac from Raymock Racing. And Alan Kowicki is right behind him, and he is in 4th position. So we have 2, 3, and 4 running very close on the racetrack.
16 career wins for Bonnet in the 75 Valvoline machine, and Kowicki has not yet won on the Winston Cup Trail. Remember, he had that pole earlier this year. But this is a terrific run for Alan. He has been trying to reassemble the crew over the last couple of weeks. He didn't practice all that swiftly. He didn't qualify all that fast, but he's had a super strong event.
And the other car on the racetrack, our final one that we'll run down for you, is the D.K. Ulrich-owned machine, driven by Bob Baker from Lakeland, Florida. The yellow flag is out as Jeff Bodine has smoke pouring from the rear of that engine. That may be causing our caution period. We assume so. Bodine on the high side of the racetrack up in turn number 2, but you can see a tremendous amount of smoke and steam coming from that Chevy.
Boy, they are having a trying season. There's no question that when things are even 80% right, on this car put together by Gary Nelson, piloted by Jeff Bodine, owned by Rick Hendrick. There's just no question they have the ability to be a challenger every time out. But 87 has started out with a great deal of rocks in the road.
So the yellow comes out on lap number 241. We ran 115 laps under green. This is the 6th caution period of the day, and wholesale pit stops will be made. Jerry Punch is in Dale Earnhardt's pit. Here he comes.
Here's the leader, Dale Earnhardt, brings the Wrangler Chevrolet to a halt. He will get a nice cool drink, and they will go to work on the right side of the car. Kirk Shelverdine, the crew chief, takes the right front tire off. They had 1 can of fuel in, the 2nd can of fuel going in. It will be a 4-tire change, routine stop under caution. But again, they must hustle here at Wilkesboro because the caution car takes about 25 seconds, 30 seconds to get around, and they have to get these tires changed to get him out. Good pit stop off the jack, about 24.5 seconds.
And there goes Dale Earnhardt back out on the racetrack, and Richard Petty is going to be second out. Kyle Petty also is away, so is Rusty Wallace. And just about everybody that came in for a stop has now moved back out onto the racetrack. Jeff Bodine has the hood up on that car as they're taking a look at it, and also Darrell Waltrip has the hood up on his car, and they're continuing to do repairs on that machine. Now, several other drivers are making second pit stops to change tires on the other side, including Richard Petty, Bill Elliott, and others. Let's go down to Dick Berggren.
Well, Bodine is in the pits, and there's a lot of oil underneath this automobile, and right now they're working in the area of the oil pan. There apparently is damage to either the oil pan or the oil cooler or one of the lines. One of the crew members is under here right now, and they are stuffing rags underneath this car to try to get it to go. Bodine has 2 or 3 times taken the window net down as if he thinks maybe it's over, and then he thinks the crew may get this thing back together again. This is a heartbreaker, an absolute heartbreaker. These guys were flying. You can see the oil underneath the automobile now. You've got 4 or 5 different crew members working on this single problem underneath the car. A lot of service, a lot of effort going on here with Jeff Bodine. We'll see if we can get a word with him right now. Jeff, what is the problem?
Well, after all we've gone through today, the wreck, the spin out up there with Waltrip, had a spark plug wire come off, got on a header. We fixed that. Car's running so good. It's running beautiful. We got a hole in our timing chain cover. It's leaking oil out the front, getting on the headers. The engine's running fine, just a hole in there. We don't know if somebody's shooting at us, shot a hole in there, or if a rock came up or something off the racetrack. But there's a hole. They're trying to patch it, but our day's over.
Here's a day Jeff Bodine would like to forget. You can believe that.
Too bad for Jeff Bodine, who was second in the 400-lap race at Richmond, Virginia earlier this year. We'll be back with our live coverage of the First Union 400. We welcome you back to North Wilkesboro, North Carolina for the First Union 400. The fans are in their heavy coats today because the temperature remains very cool. At 245 laps out of 400, they're the top 5: Dale Earnhardt, Neil Bonnet, Kyle Petty, Alan Kowicki, and Harry Gant. We're about to go green once again from our 6th caution period. I'm Bob Jenkins along with Larry Newber in the booth. Dick Berggren and Jerry Punch are working the pit area in this race. Here comes the field off the 4th turn. The green flag comes back out. Racing resumes. There are 4 cars on the lead lap. Neil Bonnet now 2nd. Kyle Petty drops to 3rd. And the only other car on the lead lap in 4th spot is Alan Kowicki.
And Bob, Harry Gant lost a lap during that last yellow. He was not passed by Earnhardt at speed on the track. His pit stop was a little longer. Dale came in. We told you he was only about 2 seconds behind that trio of cars that was in jeopardy being lapped. But Harry had a bad stop. Harry Gant holds on to 5th. He loses a lap.
That's Neil Bonnet working the inside of Bobby Hillen, who is a lap down, at least a lap down in the race. Now Bonnet, it seems, is keeping right up with Dale Earnhardt, only letting Earnhardt have about 2 car lengths advantage. And there is Harry Gant right behind the Bobby Hillen machine. Now Earnhardt begins to stretch it out just a little as they go down the backstretch and fall into turn 3.
There is Harry. You can see him trying to get up toward the front where he perhaps can do battle with first Neil Bonnet and then Dale Earnhardt. But Harry started this green flag segment on the inside of the 2nd row. He was behind Bobby Hillen Jr. He didn't have an opportunity to get a jump on Dale when the green flag dropped, but as strong as Dale and Neil for that matter, are running. I don't think that Harry had a real clean shot at getting his lap back.
Here again on the top side of Bobby Hillin, and following Harry, also on the high side of the racetrack, is Kyle Petty. And right behind Kyle Petty is Phil Parsons in car number 55. The car to the inside there of Phil is the number 15 car of Ricky Rudd, who is 7th.
Remember, Kyle Petty is 3rd. Bob just mentioned that. He is still on the lead lap. There is Kenny Schrader, the Hardy's race cam, taking a look at the Motocraft billboard on the back of Ricky Rudd's car, taking a look high side, Phil Parsons. Kenny would like to get through. He'd like to try and improve his position if he could just a bit. Remember, he too has lost a lap despite being one of the strong runners in the first 50 laps.
See how close the competition is from this vantage point. This is how Ken Schrader is watching the action. Bobby Hillin's car is on his left and Ricky Rudd's on his right. Now a hole opens up and Ken looks like thought about going through, but instead goes to the high side and will try to pass Bobby Hillin Jr. Look how close that Hillin and Rudd were there coming out of turn number 4.
Oh, there's Kowicki.
There is also Bill Elliott to the inside of Schrader. So Kenny losing a couple of spots here.
Kowicki's having a strong race.
Look at the physical exertion that you have to drive this track. And here comes Richard Petty to the inside of Kenny.
Down to about 100 miles an hour when you decelerate going into a corner. Pound the brakes once, probably hard. Maybe pump them once or twice, depending upon how heavy traffic is. Rusty Wallace letting Richard Petty know that, hey, I'm back here. Stay on the throttle. I'm trying to get around too. We get up to about 135, 140 miles an hour on the straightaway. Average speed for qualifying was in the vicinity of 114 miles an hour for most of the people in the top 10. Of course, Elliott's new track record peaked just above 116 miles per hour. There is Brett Bodine, remember, in the Junior Johnson 11 car this year. We got a spin. It's Mike Waltrip and Morgan Shepherd, 2 people.
And also Larry Pearson spins into the pit area. There is his car at the entrance to pit road. Morgan Shepherd has suffered some damage to his Quaker State machine. The left front is bent badly, and Morgan is coasting to a stop on the main straightaway. Up near turn number 4, Mike Waltrip is resting near the wall in turn number 3, although he's in reverse and trying to get the car pointed in the right direction.
2 people who had strong first 100 laps of this race. They had fallen a bit out of phase to the first 5 cars recently, and once again, fate strikes out and strikes on the Kenny Bernstein machine.
We'll go inside Ken Schrader's Red Baron car again, and the Hardys in car, and we'll listen to radio conversation between Ken and crew chief, owner of the car, Junie.
Yeah, right. I'll get you by there in a minute.
There is Kenny passing that stalled car of Morgan Shepherd in the 4th turn, and the leader, Dale Earnhardt, is in the pit area. It's a quick stop, looks like only for fuel. They're holding him until the field can pass by so he won't gain a lap. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
The reason Dale Earnhardt made this quick gas and go is very, very simple. By calculations, he can run 145 to 150 laps under green on a tank of fuel. We're right at 140 plus laps to go. This last little gas and go means he can go the rest of the way without having to worry about a pit stop.
Well, we're on lap number 260, so there are only 140 to go, and that would put Dale Earnhardt within that window. There's Mike Waltrip's car. He's one of the causes for this most recent yellow. Back at North Wilkesboro, and the number 26 Quaker State car, driven by Morgan Shepherd, has some damage to that car after being involved in a spin with Mike Waltrip up in turn number 3. Jerry Punch takes a look at some of the tools used here on a short track.
When the NASCAR and Winston Cup stars come to the short tracks, they like to get with the program, as they call it, They do a little bit of framming and bamming, a little bit of fender rubbing, and here are some of the tools that are necessary to repair some of those cars during the race. Everyone recognizes a normal pry bar, a simple steel bar to pry fenders away from the tires. Well, there are a couple of variations, and we'll let one of the Quaker State crewmen here show us this specified pry bar. This bar made with a simple curve in the end of it to slide beneath the fender and pry on the tire to help pull away the rear fender. See, it works very nicely. Well, what about if you've got some significant sheet metal damage on the car? Well, some fine-tuned, delicate adjustments to the body with this 5-pound sledgehammer. Or, if it's a serious problem, possibly its big brother, this 8-pounder right here can be used to remove serious metal or sheet metal damage. Well, how about if the car comes in with a flat tire and is rolling along on the chassis? What can you do? Well, you can't get the jack under it, so they got a tool for that. He slides this tool up beneath the car. He will push down and pry the car up off the ground so the crew can slide the normal jack in, jack the car up, and change the tires. Just some of the tools you have to use on the short tracks when you can start getting with the action and framming and bamming.
And many of the tools that Jerry talked about are being utilized at this moment by the Quaker State crew after Morgan Shepherd's incident up in turn number 3. We'll be back with more live coverage of the First Union 400 from North Wilkesboro here on ESPN. Back in North Wilkesboro, there are the top 5. Neil Bonnet has the lead now. He came out of the pits first, and Dale Earnhardt has moved to second, although he was third a lap or 2 ago, but he passed Alan Kowicki, putting him back to third. Kyle Petty is fourth, and Phil Parsons is in fifth, but Parsons is a lap down. There are only 4 cars on the lead lap. There you can see Neil Bonnet leading Phil Parsons and Ricky Rudd, and then the 4th car on the racetrack, third behind Bonnet, is the second place car of Dale Earnhardt. Brett Bodine, last time around in turn number 1, almost spun. Here's a look at it.
Bodine on the inside of the king. Richard Petty trying to hold off Bill Elliott, and Bodine not touching anybody else, but just overcooks her a little bit, going into number 1 and number 2, saves it. Elliott moves underneath. Sterling Marlin in the Piedmont Oldsmobile number 44 moves under, and on we go.
Back wide now, that's Sterling Marlin in car number 44, who is 4 laps down in 17th position. And then Brett Bodine, who right now is in 9th.
You know, Bob, a lot of chicanery. We use one of those big words that we read all those bad things about this week. A lot of changes as we go back up front and look at Neil Bonnet. He's holding on. And all the cars that are outside of those on the lead lap. We got Phil Parsons, Ricky Rudd, Rusty Wallace, Brett Bodine, Richard Petty, and Bill Elliott, among 2 or 3 others that are 1 lap down, and they've all changed positions after that last yellow. Ricky Rudd seems to have gotten the better of the situation. Ricky Rudd, and I should add, Bill Parsons. Look where they're running. There is Phil, second in line, 5th in the race. There's Earnhardt, looking like he's ready to charge to the front, and he is wrapping on Ricky Rudd's back bumper, and Ricky is in 6th position, also 1 lap down. But Phil and Ricky are strong here.
Yeah, they are. They're certainly not giving Dale Earnhardt any ground here. Earnhardt having a tough time getting around these 2 as Neil Bonnet continues to set the pace.
If this were late in the race, they would be in a position to really assist Neil Bonnet toward a potential win here. But Earnhardt really has a lot of time. We're not even inside 100 laps to go yet.
As a matter of fact, our lap counter shows that we're 277 laps into this race. So about 123 more to go. Mike Waltrip has been in the pit area. He now goes back out onto the racetrack. He was one of those involved in the spin up in turn number 3 that caused our most recent caution period, along with Morgan Shepherd and Larry Pearson. And Morgan Shepherd's car remains in the pit area, so it looks like Shepherd's day is over. Now Earnhardt moving alongside Ricky Rudd at the end of the backstretch. Morgan Shepherd continues to sit in the pit area while Dale Earnhardt now passes Ricky Rudd, and only 1 car now between himself and the leader Neil Bonnet, and that is Phil Parsons.
Before this all shakes down, we could end up having, that is assume that Earnhardt has no trouble and eventually gets back into the lead and threatens to run off and hide again. We could have an interesting contest for second place because Bonnet continues to run strong. Kyle Petty is moving in on a group of cars. Difficult to tell who in that group up there is holding back everybody else with Bonnet, Phil Parsons, Dale Earnhardt. He's holding no one back, or Richie Rudd, but Kyle Petty is moving up, and Alan Kowicki is only about 15 car lengths behind Kyle, and Bonnet in second, Kyle's third, and Alan Kowicki is in fourth.
So things are kind of in a settled down period here as Neil Bonnet leads. Back at North Wilkesboro, where really the only change significantly that has happened during that break is Dale Earnhardt has passed Phil Parsons, and now Dale Earnhardt is right behind the leader of this race, Neil Bonnet. About 5 car lengths, or maybe 4 car lengths, separate those two. The 27 and 9 cars are doing battle out there. That is Rusty Wallace and Bill Elliott. This is approximately for 7th position, we believe. Both cars on the same lap, although a lap down to the leader.
Barry Dodson told me that they have been so impressed. That is the Raymond Beetle number 27 car, handled by Rusty Wallace. They've been so impressed with Dale Earnhardt and what that team has been doing this year that they have kind of paid attention to the testing schedule of when Richard Childress is going to go somewhere. And they have made it a point that when they happen to be scheduled at the same time, they show up at the same time the Childress car does to try and see just how they measure up to that car. He told me he thinks it helped a little bit. Of course, nobody has really stumbled across, if indeed it is a secret, whatever it is, why Childress, Schumberdine, and Earnhardt are so strong this year.
While testing is a very important part of any race, it could have led to the pole position of Bill Elliott. They tested here at this track a week ago Monday, but as you can see, the testing that they did apparently isn't paying off too well as far as the race is concerned. Now Dale Earnhardt is within 1 car length of Neil Bonnet. We'll see how Dale might challenge for the lead.
Bob, an indication again about how severe the weather was here. Looking at Bonnet, I ran into Bonnet in the hotel. I think it was Friday night. He said, well, I was on my way up in the mountains, up in the Boone, I think he said he was going, and he got about 15 miles down the road, and the road disappeared. He said all I could see was guardrail and white. He came back. The snow was that heavy in certain parts of the countryside up here this weekend.
It was just a horrible Friday night here in the Triad, as they call it, the Piedmont area. There is Brett Bodine in number 11 racing with Bill Elliott, and that is for 9th position. Brett is having just a tremendous afternoon here in that substitution effort for Terry Labonte.
He's had a solid day. I would imagine that in the back of his mind he would have liked to have stayed on the lead lap or maybe run just a tad more competitive. But I give him high marks, Bob, for keeping in the forefront what he is really here to do. And I mentioned it earlier in the broadcast. One of the first things that Brett mentioned to me earlier this week is that I need to get as many markers for Terry Labonte as I possibly can. And he's accomplished that today.
And now he challenges for 9th position, moving alongside Bill Elliott out of turn number 4, and Brett Bodine has 9th position. You know, Brett was, of course, originally supposed to drive for Cale Yarborough here at North Wilkesboro. But when Terry Labonte was injured, Junior Johnson went to Cale and said, will you drive the car for me? And Cale said, no, but how about Brett Bodine? And Brett agreed to do so, so that's how he came by this ride in the Junior Johnson car this weekend. It is still Neil Bonnet the leader, but Dale Earnhardt is challenging. Let's go to the pits once again.
Well, I'm with his crew chief, Bob Rahilly. Bob, it's looking very good. Can you hold Earnhardt off?
I don't know. Right now the car's a little tight off the corner, but it looks like Earnhardt's a little loose off, so we'll just have to wait and see.
How about fuel? Do you have to make another stop for fuel, or can you make it to the end on what you have?
No, we're in good shape on the fuel.
Okay, that's Bob Rahilly. He owns the car that's in the lead right now.
A week ago, Bob, we had a crew chief, as a matter of fact, crew chief on that car right there, who said to us, oh, we're okay on fuel, we can go the distance, and we disputed that. I don't dispute it this week. I think that the yellow flag came at the right time. You saw Earnhardt duck in and get a little more fuel, and yeah, I agree with that. I think everybody's in pretty good shape.
Neil Bonnet and Dale Earnhardt are first and second, but look who is in 3rd position. He's moved up through traffic since the caution flag and now is within 4 or 5 car lengths of 2nd place Dale Earnhardt, and there is the interval between Earnhardt and 3rd place Kyle Petty.
A couple things in perspective. Kyle Petty has never really raced to a win. He's snuck through that big conflagration of spinning cars in the last lap of Richmond to win. He has been strong here in past races. Remember a race about a year and a half ago when Kyle Petty was running well and he got bumped by Dale Earnhardt. He expressed his displeasure on the air here on ESPN from a gesture from cockpit to cockpit. Is this going to be Kyle Petty's day?
At the moment, Neil Bonnet leads the first Union Bank 400. We talked to him earlier in the weekend about testing and practice here at North
You've
Wilkes.
had some good days at this racetrack, too.
Yeah, and I probably ran more test laps at this track anywhere I've ever ran. I drove for Junior for 3 years. The majority of our testing was at this facility right here. And I told Butch I ran good with him when I was back with him in '83 here at this track, and I feel like I bring some more experience in here that'll help us with our race team. And the very little practice we've had, my car feels great right now. I feel like we'll be in good shape for the race.
That's the comments of Neil Bonnet, who at the moment leads this event, going to the outside of the 81 car driven by Eddie Bierschwell. Well, certainly if Neil Bonnet can pull off the victory here today and beat Dale Earnhardt, it will be quite a feather in his cap. The question that I have, can he do it? Can Bonnet hold off Dale Earnhardt?
My opinion, no. It is either Earnhardt or Kyle Petty that is the strongest car among those three. Now, history is going to tell us, recent history, that it's going to be Earnhardt, but Petty has been moving up. I don't know if it's because Dale's been held back by Neil or because Kyle is running better than both of them. I'll tell you one thing, old Neil is not rolling over and playing dead. Earnhardt is going to have to arm wrestle big time to get by Neil.
Well, he tried it there on the outside.
Curve.
Oh, he hit the curve there in turn number 4. He tried the high line, the outside of the racetrack in turns 1 and 2 last lap. Got a little bit out of shape and lost maybe 3 or 4 feet. And then he went to the inside there in turn number 4 and hit the curb. So he is having difficulty passing Neil Bonnet. Look at Kyle Petty. He is certainly not out of this race.
This is something that Earnhardt hasn't had to contend with very many times in 1987. Fighting for the lead within the last 100 laps of a race. Two guys actually have a chance. He must be flabbergasted.
Well, I think those 3 cars that are running together there are just about equal. At least it appears that way at the moment. Neil Bonnet's Pontiac, Dale Earnhardt Chevrolet, and Kyle Petty's Ford. Kyle looking to the inside of Earnhardt. He is looking like he would like to pass Dale Earnhardt and go in the 2nd spot, but for the moment they fall into single file formation heading to turn number 3. We'll resume our coverage after these messages. In terms of position change, you haven't missed anything up front. It's still Bonnet and Earnhardt and Petty, but look at this battle for 8th position side by side. It's Brett Bodine to the inside and Rusty Wallace to the outside. Some great side-by-side door-handle-to-door handle competition. 8th and 9th here.
Oh, Brett.
Oh!
Maybe the first time that Brett Bodine has been in a Winston Cup car on a short track, but many, many miles on a short track and all kinds of racers, as with Rusty Wallace. So these are 2 guys that you might say this is Bodine's first race ever, but they match up pretty evenly when it comes to experience on short tracks.
Well, it's going to be interesting to go to Bristol, Tennessee next weekend. We'll be there live with the Valleydale Meets 500 at 1 o'clock next Sunday afternoon. That's where Rusty Wallace won his very first Winston Cup race. And we'll see if he can duplicate that effort this year.
In fact, both of these people figure to be prominent next week. Bodine really likes that place, too. It's one of the first places where he emerged in big-time racing.
Now the leaders are coming into some traffic, and we could see some position changes here. They passed Jerry Cranmer. Now Bobby Allison is just about to get lapped again. He is 2 laps down at the moment, about to go 3 laps down. He's just ahead of Neil Bonnet there in the red and white car. That's Bobby Allison.
Now, as we approach Bobby Allison, it's Neil Bonnet and Dale Earnhardt slipping a little bit, coming out of number 4. See Bill Parsons in the background at the top of your screen. Remember, Bill is down a lap, but running strong here. There's Kyle Petty in 3rd. What both Kyle Petty and Neil Bonnet have to hope is that Earnhardt loses a little bit of the handle in the last 70 or 80 laps here that we have to go. Will the stagger perhaps go away just a bit? That is the difference in the size of the outside tires from the inside tires. As this track continues to get more and more slick, will the setup favor that man right there, Kyle Petty, or maybe favor Bonnet? Again, I don't want to keep harping on the point, but to reflect back historically in '87, both of them got to figure they have got to beat Earnhardt, particularly in the last 50 laps of this race, Probably hoping for no yellow flags, because I agree with you, Bob. Both Bonnet and Petty look stronger than what I thought, but I still think that at least at this moment, Dale has a little bit of an edge. But the question is, will that edge go away?
Here we go. It's just about to go away. They
him.
bump coming out of turn 4. Earnhardt gets the lead. We had just heard from our spotters that Neil Bonnet is very loose out there. The car is very loose. That may have proved it right there, but Bonnet is banging his way, trying to keep Earnhardt out of that top spot, but Earnhardt goes back into the lead. Now, Bonnet went into the lead for the first time on lap 260 when Earnhardt pitted under caution. Neil did not pit at that time. Now, Dale, though, back in front.
What happened there was that Bonnet moved over to put a lap on Larry Pearson. He moved over too much. He gave a lane to Earnhardt. He moved up there. He never got the RPMs back up. He never got a grip of the racetrack. He lost about a half a lane, and Earnhardt saw an opening, stayed on the throttle, and got in there.
Typical short track NASCAR Winston Cup competition. Excitement galore. This is, oh, look at Bonnet going to the inside of the number 12 Slick Johnson car, getting just a little bit sideways. But I'll tell you, Neil is hanging right in there. This has got to be one of the finest, most competitive, closest races we've seen here at North Wilkesboro in a number of years. This is super speedway stuff when you see 3 cars running right together near the end of the race.
Interesting psychology going on right now between Earnhardt and Bonnet, and Bonnet does give all the indications that he does have a little bit left. They're really pretty good friends. They're kind of kindred spirits away from the racetrack. But you know, a couple years ago when everybody was complaining about Dale, Neil wasn't vocal in what he was saying. He wasn't standing in line with all the people who were making the complaints, but I personally observed that he was one of the people who was observing the situation closely. Because of his off-track relationship with Dale, he wasn't one of the critics, but I often wondered what was going on in his mind because he was quiet but watching.
Let's get down to Dick Berggren, who can perhaps shed some light on whether or not Neil is having some handling difficulty, that car being too loose. Dick?
Yeah, Bob, he is indeed a bit loose. The back end of the car is trying to come out from under him, and that's really no surprise given what's happened here with the weather. The sun is out, the temperature is rising, and that's the direction these cars are most likely to go when the weather turns in this direction. However, this loose condition is not so significant nor so severe that Bonnet would come in and make a pit stop unless there is a caution flag. If there's a caution flag, there's a very good chance he'll come in and get some tires, which could solve that problem.
All right, Dick. Well, Neil right now is doing all he can to hold on to that second spot as Kyle Petty is right on his back bumper.
Bob, I'd like to make one more comment about that move because so much has been said about Dale in the last couple of years. I'll be as brief as I can. It was really rough stuff, and I think it was fair.
There are your first 3. Earnhardt, second and third here, Neil Bonnet and Kyle Petty. In 4th position, also on the lead lap now, is Alan Kulwicki. In 5th, a lap down, is Phil Parsons. 6th is Ricky Rudd. 7th, Richard Petty. 8th is Rusty Wallace. 9th is Brett Bodine. In 10th position is Bill Elliott. And 11th is Harry Gant. 2 laps down in 12th position is the 18 car of Dale Jarrett. 13th is Ken Schrader. And 14th is Bobby Allison, who ran well at the beginning of the race, but has fallen back now to 2 laps behind the leader. We'll be back with more of our live coverage after this, the First Union 400. We are back at the First Union 400 at North Wilkesboro at 330 laps. Dale Earnhardt, the leader. Here is a battle for second position. It is Kyle Petty and Neil Bonnet going at it down the straightaway. Bonnet leads as they cross the stripe, but certainly Kyle Petty was challenging seriously, still is as a matter of fact. He's on the inside of Neil Bonnet. Now Bonnet stretches out the advantage to almost a half a car length into turn 3.
The first and a half generation of NASCAR racing in Neil Bonnet, and the second generation of NASCAR racing in Kyle Petty.
Almost identically painted cars. Bonnet's, of course, sponsor is Valvoline and Citgo 711 on the Kyle Petty car. Blue and white machines. Bonnet in 75 and Kyle Petty in number 21.
Big moment for Neil because what he displayed to Kyle was, yeah, I'm a little loose here, but I want you to know that I'm still very much in control of what I got going here. And for you to make a pass on me, it's going to have to be one of those perfect moves It's not going to be good enough just to slide up next to me and wave at me. It's a significant moment for Neil, particularly psychologically. He has let Kyle know that he's got to concentrate to the utmost.
Well, Harry Gant there in the 33 Skoll car is 2 laps down to Dale Earnhardt, and now he goes 2 laps down to both Neil Bonnet and Kyle Petty. Kyle making the pass there in turn number 2.
Just a word about Bonnet's season as we continue to look at this racer originally out of Alabama. Neil Bonnet has had a 3rd, a 7th, a 6th, and a 12th all on the super speedways. He crashed, unfortunately, at Rockingham, or rather make that Richmond earlier this year. There's Neil putting a lap on Benny Parsons. Neil is in 3rd in points, so a 2nd or a 3rd or even a 4th place finish will really establish him as one of the people to keep your eyes on in the points championship. Of course, the way the points are structured in Winston Cup racing, if you have a string of top 5 finishes throughout most of the year, you're going to be in it for points right up to the end. Dale was leading in points. Bill Elliott, of course, was second, and it was Neil.
Okay, we're going to try to get you an indication of how far Dale Earnhardt is ahead here. By the way, Neil came in 3rd in points, 140 behind the leader, Dale Earnhardt. As Earnhardt crosses the stripe, we will begin our stopwatch and tell you that the interval is 2.6 seconds between Earnhardt, the leader, and Bonnet, second.
You know, another measure of, well, how do you look at a pass for the lead? Psychologically, if the guy who takes the lead is the one who streaks away, you think, well, you did not create an unfair advantage, so I'll accept that move for the lead.
We'll do it again, see if the interval has changed. Nope, it's exactly the same, 2.6 seconds.
And it's really tough to get any stretch of a difference, even if you're in a superior car in 1 lap on a 5/8 mile racetrack. The important point is that Dale has established about 20 car lengths over both Neil and Kyle, and he may be coasting right now. I like to call it park and ride.
All right, Dale Earnhardt now on the outside, passing Rodney Combs in car number 10. Rodney from Lost Creek, West Virginia, former dirt track racer from the Cincinnati, Ohio area in the Dygard Chevrolet. Started this race 23rd.
Yeah, Rodney, a lot of people think that he's from the West Virginia area originally because that's where he was living when he was running competitively with the NDRA Dirt Series, but he actually started out, as Bob mentioned, in the Cincinnati, Ohio area, to be exact, a little place called Mason, Ohio. I saw Rodney for the first time back in 1975 and 76 when I was the public address announcer at the Dayton Speedway, and Rodney, along with Lenny Waldo, who went on to lead that sprint car division, were the 2 people who were the kingpins on that high-banked half-mile racetrack, very similar, by the way, to Bristol.
Earnhardt with about a 2.6 second advantage as we are live at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina for stop number 6 on the Winston Cup Trail for 1987. Our lap counter shows 343 laps completed. 400 will make up this race, and we'll be back in a moment. Ken Schrader, courtesy of our Hardee's Race Cam in the Red Baron Pizza Ford, showing us pictures from the pit area. Ken has had to come in for a flat tire on the left side of that car. It's a quick stop, though, and Ken Schrader moves back out onto the racetrack. Our 28:58 update will give you the latest scores from the NBA and other major sporting events of the afternoon as Schrader moves back up to speed on the racetrack. Well, let's go down to the pit area and check with our reporters on exactly what has happened in the pit area recently. First, let's go to Dr. Jerry Punch.
We'd like to give an update on the injured crew member in Alan Kulwicki's pit. The crew member was Johnny Junk, the crew chief on the T-Rex Ford. He was hit in the side of the head with a tire by another car. We are pleased to report that Johnny is okay. He is in a hospital locally. He has called the track and talked to some of the crew members and told him he's fine. He wants to say, go get him, Alan Kulwicki. He'll be okay. Good news for Johnny Junk, the crew chief for Alan Kulwicki. Let's go up pit road to my colleague, Dick Wilson.
Well, Jerry, all is quiet up here in the Neil Bonnet pit. There is absolutely nothing they can do right now to help their driver try to close the interval on Dale Earnhardt. All they can do here is painfully sit, hope that the caution flag so they can fix the car. Otherwise, Earnhardt's going to be one tough cookie to catch from here.
Well, it certainly appears that is the situation because the interval now has stretched from that 2.6 that we had a few laps ago, and it's almost now a full straightaway advantage for Dale Earnhardt. Neil Bonnet continuing to run in second, holding off Kyle Petty for third. And the interval, as we check it from the booth here, is just about 5 seconds, just a little over 5 seconds.
The 1986 season was truly one of the most competitive on the short track segment of the Winston Cup Trail. In recent years, Kyle Petty winning at Richmond. Rusty Wallace won the first race of the year at Bristol. Earnhardt won here at North Wilkesboro. Then at Martinsville, Ricky Rudd was the winner. Waltrip came back and won at Bristol, which meant after the first 5 short tracks of the year, there had been a different winner every time. Then Tim Richmond won at Richmond, which meant that there were 6 for 6 of different winners. Rusty Wallace and Darrell Waltrip came back and won the final 2 of the 8 short track races last year, but it was a pretty good season in short track.
We're showing you the interval between first Earnhardt and second and third Bonnet and Kyle Petty. Now Kyle looks like he wants to challenge on the high side of the racetrack, but he cannot make the pass. Dick Bergeron is with Leonard Wood once again.
Well, Leonard, you've got quite a battle going on here with your driver Kyle Petty and Neil Bonnet. What will your strategy be for the remainder of the race?
Well, we come in and topped it off on the last pit stop, so we shouldn't have to stop anymore. I don't know if he will or not. He didn't top his off, but he still might not have to stop. But, you know, if no cautions, we should be able to make it the rest of the way.
If there is a caution, will you bring your car in, and can you adjust it to run more quickly?
Well, we'll just bring it in, put on 4 new tires.
And that is probably what everybody will do here if there is a caution flag. If not, we've got a good race for second spot going on.
Boy, you can say that again, as Kyle has at one time pulled alongside Bonnet, but Neil continues to hang on.
It's pretty obvious. If Kyle is going to get the position, where he has to be perfect at is down here. I say down here because we run downhill into 1 and 2. He's got to be perfect down here and get at least side by side with Neil, because what he has found out that is when he is door handle to door handle with Bonnet as they go uphill around 3 and 4, Neil can out RPM him around the outside. So Kyle has got to get the advantage coming around 1 and 2 so he can hold on to 3 and 4 in the pole position.
There are 41 laps to go. The last pit stop, the last gas stop at least, for Dale Earnhardt came on lap 259. Bonnet came in on lap 242, and Petty and Kulwicki both came in on lap 243. The question is, can everybody go the distance without another fuel stop?
Petty and Kulwicki, remember, are in Fords, notoriously just a little harsher on the fuel mileage. My opinion, yes, fuel should be okay here in North Wilkes.
If that's the case, then it's going to be a flat-out battle to the finish, as Dale Earnhardt has the lead, but the battle for second is a tremendous one. And not too far behind this great contest for second position is the 4th place running Alan Kulwicki, and he is certainly not out of this race.
Petty, if he can just hold that inside line, he won't get Neil on this lap, but if he can hold it, have a good run down the front stretch, and then hit 1 and 2 perfect. He's got lap traffic coming up in front of him. It's Bobby Allison. No, he's got to get back into line. He had a good chance right there to get around Neil Bonnet, but Bobby Allison got in the way. I repeat again, it's got to happen down in 1 and 2 to set up for 3 and 4. Good lap, and then he picks it up at 1 and 2 the next time around.
Well, what about experience? Is that playing a part? This is Kyle Petty's 202nd Winston Cup start, and Neil Bonnet's 282nd. So as this battle rages on, now opening up just a little bit, we'll take a break and be right back. Back at North Wilkesboro, and the caution flag is out. Larry Pearson has spun off the racetrack in the backstretch. So now the question as to whether or not they have enough fuel to make the final few laps, well, that's a moot point now, because Earnhardt, Kyle Petty, Neil Bonnet, and all of those running up front are coming in for a top-off.
You're looking at the people who are going to win or lose the race for either Dale Earnhardt, Neil Bonnet, or Kyle Petty. So far, the crew on the top right there, Dale Earnhardt, Richard Childress, and Kirk Shelmerdine and company, have made all the right decisions this year. We've seen several races in Winston Cup racing, past 3 or 4 seasons, that the complexion has changed for after a late caution flag like this. Now, Earnhardt is out first, unless he is absolutely, once again, Mr. Speed. It may not mean that much. Now Kyle Petty gets out second, Neil Bonnet gets out third, so Earnhardt holds on to his lead, but we will see after we go green if everybody made the right decision.
So Kyle Petty is now in second position because he got out of the pit area ahead of Neil Bonnet. Everybody changed 4 tires and topped off. Here's Dick.
And if there was any doubt at all, Neil Bonnet made it crystal clear to his crew what he wanted. I have never seen a driver direct a crew the way Neil Bonnet just did. He stuck his hand out the window with 4 fingers up. He said 4 tires. I want 4 tires, just to be absolutely sure, and that's what they gave him. 4 new tires on the second and third place cars. It could make quite a difference in the way they run.
Yeah, it really could, and the question now is going to be, can Kyle Petty hold off the challenge of Neil Bonnet as Neil did Petty's challenge before we went to this 8th caution period of the afternoon. The caution again for Larry Pearson, who spun on the backstretch. Back with more after this at North Wilkesboro. We are back to racing at North Wilkesboro with 373 laps. When we went green, Dale Earnhardt, there he is, the leader. Kyle Petty is second, not letting Dale get very far ahead. Neil Bonnet remains in third position as Neil did not have a particularly good start. Got a little high in turn number 2 and lost a few feet. And Alan Kulwicki runs in 4th position. Those 4 cars on the lead lap. There you see the field passing through turn number 2.
Bob gave you a rundown of the top 10 just before we went to the last commercial break in no particular order. Here are the people who have remained out on the Speedway in addition to that top 10. Let's see, we got Bobby Allison is still there. Bobby Hillin Jr. there is Bonnet trying to move underneath Ricky Rudd. Remember, they're not racing for position. Sterling Marlin in the 44 car. Slick Johnson in Roger Hanby's 12 machine. Benny Parsons, the number 18 of Dale Jarrett. Michael Waltrip in the 81 car, Burt Wall.
Well, Neil Bonnet did successfully pass Ricky Rudd now. There is a car between Bonnet and second place Kyle Petty. That is Brett Bodine, and he'll be trying to pass him in just a few laps to make up even more ground. But Neil Bonnet is running in third position, losing 1 on that last series of pit stops.
What we're getting on the radio is that they put 4 new tires on the Bonnet car. He's very unhappy with the stagger, particularly the right rear. And he is telling the crew that I need this thing to grow a little bit. In other words, the right rear has got to get bigger to give me a little more ability to lean on the bank. That's his problem right now. The stagger is just not right. They took a chance, didn't work out properly, but he thinks that in about 15 or 20 laps they might come in. But 15 or 20 laps,
that's right. There are less than 20 laps to go in this contest. And it's pretty obvious that Bonnet is not happy with the set of tires that he got on that pit stop. On the other hand, Kyle Petty, who also got 4 new tires, may have really helped himself because he is in no way out of this race. In fact, could win it.
He really does have a shot. By the way, that 15 or 20 laps, that was not a quote from me. That was just a comment from me. But he is saying to the crew, geez, I wish it would just grow with that stagger on the right rear so I could go a little harder. But back to the Kyle Petty story. There he is. The Woods brothers have traditionally been strong at this racetrack. Even though their career is they have not run that often on the short track, particularly contemporary-wise, they've always been okay here at North Wilkesboro. Well, they are a step more than okay today. They are strong, and as Bob has mentioned, Dale Earnhardt is not shaking Kyle Petty, but Kyle also is not showing the ability to move up and duel with Dale, and we're getting late.
Of course, Kyle has only won 1 Winston Cup race. That was in Richmond last year, 1986, early in the campaign, as he was able to thread his way through an accident in turn number 3 and went on to win the event. But this certainly is his best shot since then.
In 1982, he did race to a second place. He finished second to Darrell Waltrip at Dover in an event. He was right on Darrell's back bumper, similar to this, although he was actually a little closer in that Dover situation in 1982.
Here's the interval. First and second. Completing lap number 386. There are 14 more circuits to go on this 0.625-mile racetrack. 400 laps around here is just about 250 miles. The interval field staying about the same now as Kyle has been unable to close in the last few laps. Neil Bonnet holding on to third position, but he's about a half a straightaway behind Kyle Petty. And Alan Kulwicki remains in fourth. He is about 15 to 20 car lengths behind Neil Bonnet. The leader working some of the slower traffic, again lapping Jerry Cranmer, already putting another lap on Bob Baker in the DKL car, number 6. 12 laps to go as they come by. This time it'll be 11 to go for Dale Earnhardt.
Kyle Petty, much has been talked and written about his budding music career, which is basically on hold right now. There is Alan Kulwicki moving underneath Ricky Rudd. Rudd, of course, again, is 1 lap down. Kulwicki holding down fourth. Strong run for Alan. Rudd is shown in 5th position as he is 1 lap down. Right behind him is Richard Petty. He is on the same lap with Ricky Rudd, 6th position, 1 lap down.
And look at the damage to the STP Pontiac. You can see where he has had contact with a few cars. There's some tire rubbing there on both the right and the left side of that number 43 machine. Again, Rudd and Petty are on the same lap fighting for 5th here.
When you play on the line in football, you get hit. That's it.
The number 27 car and the 9 machine are both 2 laps down, but they are battling for position. That's Rusty Wallace in 9th and Bill Elliott in 10th.
And that is actually the 7th place machine of Phil Parsons there on the end of that tandem. Again, Wallace is, let's see, 8th right now. 2 laps down. 9th is Elliott. He's 2 laps down. And just ahead of them in the standings in 7th is the number 55 car of Phil Parsons. The 2nd week in a row, Parsons has turned in a strong run. 2nd week in a row, he lost a lap early in the race, which had he not lost that, he was a candidate for top 5.
I think we left out Brett Bodine there in the rundown, Larry. Brett is shown in 8th right now, and Rusty Wallace in 9th, and Bill Elliott in 10th position. 6 laps to go. It looks as if Dale Earnhardt is going to win this race because he has stretched out the advantage now significantly over Kyle Petty. It's about perhaps a second and a half. But on the racetrack, it's about a half a straightaway. And then here comes Neil Bonnet. Bonnet, however, appears to be struggling with that car as Alan Kulwicki now is certainly in a better position to challenge for that 3rd position.
Race winners up to this point this season. Bill Elliott, of course, winning out of the box at Daytona. Earnhardt won 2 in a row. Rockingham and Richmond on the Super Speedway, a short Super Speedway, a short track. Rudd picking up that Atlanta win. Situation similar today. It looked like Benny Parsons had it wrapped up. Late yellow. Rudd got the better setup coming out. And Earnhardt winning again last week at Darlington. Should he win here, it would be the 4th time in 6 races, giving him a commanding lead in that category. Again, repeating because of the Winston NASCAR point standing structure. Yeah, he'll have a big lead, but it won't be the kind that looks insurmountable. If this were a series like Formula One or kart IndyCar racing, for instance, the lead would be dramatic because nobody else has consistently finished in the first 3 positions.
There are 2 laps to go. The next time by, Dale Earnhardt will get the white flag, signifying 1 more lap to go.
They really have it going. It seems like it may well be something in the chassis, but with like everybody who becomes dominant in a series, the chassis may be the most significant factor, but it's one of several.
The white flag is displayed by Harold Kinder, the NASCAR starter. Dale Earnhardt is on his last lap. This will be his 24th career win, his 4th win of 1987 out of 6 races. The only other 2 winners, Ricky Rudd, and of course the winner of the Daytona 500, Bill Elliott. Dale Earnhardt wins the first Union 400 at North Wilkesboro. The battle for 3rd place goes to Neil Bonnet, although Alan Kulwicki was right on his back bumper. It is Kyle Petty in 2nd, Neil Bonnet 3rd, and Alan Kulwicki finishing 4th. Those 4 cars, the only on the lead lap. So the crew headed by Kirk Shelmerdine celebrates in the pit area. They will be going to victory lane with their driver. There are the pit crew members. The crew chief Shelmerdine, and of course the owner is Richard Childress. And right now Dale Earnhardt is going down pit road headed for victory lane. And we will be having an interview with him from victory lane in just a moment. Once again, Dale Earnhardt wins here at North Wilkesboro. Back at North Wilkesboro, the winning car is not in victory lane, but rather is being fueled and checked over by the NASCAR technical people. And we'll be having our winner interview here in just a moment, as Dale Earnhardt has once again won another race on the Winston Cup circuit. Here's Jerry Punch.
Well, Dale Earnhardt still sitting in this Wrangler Chevrolet. And Dale, first of all, congratulations on a super run today.
Thank you, Jerry. You know, the guys did a super job with this car. It's the same car we ran at Richmond and wrecked up there. And, you know, it's just a good day for us. Kirk and all the guys did a good job in the pits. And, you know, Lou's engine ran smooth all day. We just really didn't have no problems. We didn't have to change the car much at all. We maybe turned a wedge bolt one time. But, you know, it's a good day. I like to thank all our sponsors, you know, for Wrangler and Goodwrench and all the people that help us. And, you know, they're doing an awful good job for this year.
It's hard to get 4 tires here, even under yellow, Dale, and get back out without losing a lap. But the Wrangler crew, Kirk and the guys, did a tremendous job in the pits.
They did. You know, they're the key to this race car running so good and doing so good. They just keep doing a good job every week, and it don't matter where we go race. You know, they pumped up for it.
Everyone's wondering what can stop Dale Earnhardt. He's on a roll, 4 wins and 6 starts. I mean, is there anybody can handle you?
Well, you know, they get their cars right. They'll be tough. You know, it's early in the season, and a lot of the teams have got new people on their teams and new drivers with different crew chiefs. So, you know, they've got a lot to do with it. I figure about, you know, in several races here mid-season, it's going to be a lot tougher than what it is now.
Well, the man who has the momentum, he bounced one off the wall last week at Darlington, yet came home to victory lane. He wins again today at North Wilkesboro. Let's go up to Dick Bergen with the fellow who finished in second place.
And a solid second position it was for Kyle Petty. Kyle, good run today.
Yeah, we had a real good run. You know, the first couple laps, or first couple pit stops, the tires pushed pretty good, but Eddie and Lynn and Glenn and Leonard and the crew worked great, and got to go forward back up front, and we run pretty good.
You came real close, but Earnhardt just seems so strong this year. Can anybody blow him off, or is he just that tough right now?
He's tough. He's tough. They got in and out of the pits real good. Everything worked real good with him. But what happened was at the end of the race, we changed tires, and the sun came out, and I think that hurt us a little bit. And the car got a little bit looser than what I wanted. I could run with him for 10 or 15 laps, but then the car got a little bit loose, and he got away from me.
And one of the first people down to congratulate Kyle Petty was Barbara Hilly, the fellow that owns the third-place car of Neil Bonnet. Upstairs, go ahead.
Thank you, Dick and Jerry. Well, today's Winner's Circle interview has been brought to you by the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. No matter how far you go, Goodyear takes you home. We asked the question at the start of a program, who can beat Dale Earnhardt? And the question was answered today, nobody. So perhaps the guy they affectionately call Iron Head is becoming our Iron Man of Winston Cup racing.